So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. What if Naruto was the prodigy of will and fire and had Hermione and Draco as his slave? Movie 2. With Itachi and Sasuke. Itachi had also taken Sasuke out of the village to plane to train his little brother Sharingan and train his speed in preparation for Kakashi to teach Sasuke his prized technique, the Chidori. For that Sasuke was going to train with weight seals. Weight seals were seals added on bands that were used for training and were a lot more practical than the normal weights as they could be regulated. So how long should I wear these? Sasuke asked while observing the bands. All the time. Now the weight seals on your arms are set on 15 pounds and your leg seals are set on 25 pounds. When you are used to that weight I add 5 more, Itachi said. I understand that the seals are for me to get stronger, but is there any other reason? Yes, the seals will help you with augmenting your speed, this will help you in battle as well. It is the first step in learning the Chidori. You mean Kakashi Jutsu? Yes, the Chidori needs speed and good control of the Sharingan. Itachi explained. Now I'll not teach you new jutsu but help you perfect the ones you got. You have a good arsenal for the exams, what you need is to know how to use them with as little chakra as possible. How? Chakra training. Shadow clones have the ability to transfer knowledge when they are dispelled. So while we train you we'll send 2 clones. One will climb trees, the other will walk on water, and when they dispel you'll either tree walk or water walk. Now for the last thing for today, I want you to push some chakra in this paper. What is so special about it? It is a chakra nature paper. Itachi showed how it worked and gave one to Sasuke and watched as how the paper burned and crinkled. Is this good? Yes, you have 2 chakra natures, fire and lightning. Now the chakra nature and the exercises are the one similar thing you 3 have in common. The rest it's going to be unique to each of you. Understood. I am ready, Sasuke said with resolve. With Hinata and Mia. Mia has also taken Hinata out of the village for the month of training. Obtaining Hiyashi permission has been difficult, but Mia has been very persuasive, and now every time Hiyashi heard Mia name he twitched, making his fellows clan heads wonder what the Hokage adopted daughter had said and or did to him. What are the plans, Mia-sensei? Well, split our time between chakra control exercises and finding your chakra nature and Hinata. This is a thing that the 3 of you are doing. Then for you personally, well train your Byakugan blind spot, as the goal is to make it either non-existent or as small as possible. My Byakugan has a blind spot. Hinata. Each technique has at least one weakness. Even the Sharingan on a certain level can lead to blindness if overused. Then Sasuke can go blind. No, as this level needs something to be unlocked and only Itachi knows what is it from the 4 of us. We have offered to help him unlock it, but he has refused. But why, if it can lead to more powerful techniques? We don't know, and we haven't asked, as this is Itachi's decision. Now the Byakugan is believed to be able to see at around 360 degrees, but that is not true, Hinata. In fact, each Hyuga has a 5 degrees blind spot, behind their head, where you clansmen are unable to see. Now 5 degrees may not sound like much, however this angle can become wider the farthest the enemy is from a Hyuga, and these 5 degrees may make the difference between your life and your death. This is why your rotation is very important, to compensate for your blind spot, and this will help with that. Mia showed her the weight seal bands. What are those? Weights, but instead of these bulky things that are sold in the ninja stores, Kushina has made for each of us a set of these bands. Only Naruto is not wearing his now, as his individual training will not focus on speed, but yours and Sasuke will. Understood. So how much weight will I be carrying? To start on 10 pounds on the arms and 20 on the legs, then when you get comfortable I'll add 5 pounds on the bracelet. However, even if you are ready for weight augmentation I may decide not to do that, as I'll want you to be in good condition for the finals. This only may happen as we get closer to the 3rd round, understood? Hi, Mia-sensei, the Hyuga heiress said. Now as we set camp you are going to send 2 shadow clones, one will climb the trees and the other will walk on water. After a couple of hours you'll dispel them and do the exercises yourself. Also put some chakra in this paper. Mia gave her a chakra nature paper and watched as it went soggy. What is this? Chakra nature paper, and yours is water. Now this is everything for today. The next day with Naruto and Jade. Early in the morning the blonde-haired ninja had sent some of his clones to do chakra control exercises, and he was in the process of warming up by doing stretches under the watchful eyes of Jade before starting to run around the small lake. After completing 5 laps he stopped and went under the shade when Jade gave him water in one of these disgusting nutriments bars that were full of energy but lacked in taste. That was good workout. How do you feel? Awesome, Aniki. What's next? Now you relax and try to meditate. If you succeed you should enter your mindscape and maybe talk to the Kyuubi, Jade said, and started a fire. How do I do that? Just look into the fire and hopefully you should eventually enter your mind. If I meet the Kyuubi, what should I do? You will keep away from it. I am not experienced enough and I don't know the nature of the seal. Minato and Kushina will help you with that. We didn't have creatures like that in our old world, so I don't want to mess with something I don't understand. Naruto sat and looked into the dancing fire and soon he had entered his mind. He looked for the first time at his mindscape and was speechless. His surrounding was all made of stone and water. He looked around and saw one particular stream that was different. The thing that was different was that all other streams were clear and smooth, but this one was a little muddy and rocky. He decided to follow it and soon the stream led him to an island. On the island there was a mountain with a cave. At the entrance of the cave there were bars and on one of the middle bars, there was a paper. Naruto shivered as he understood what he was seeing. In front of him was the cage of the Kyuubi. He felt someone touching him and he opened his eyes to look at the concerned eyes of his brother. Naruto, are you okay? I found my mindscape. It was composed of water and stone and among the water there were many streams. One of them was rocky and muddy and I followed it to an island with a cave. The entrance of the cave had bars. On one of them there was the word seal. Did you see the fox? No, you touched me before, I made contact. Good, this is good, from now on each time you meditate, you must be very careful as you have progressed further in one sitting that I have done. What is the best case scenario, Aniki? I cannot tell you as I don't know. You must ask your mother about this as she was the container of the fox before you. Understood. What I can do is help you with the foundation of your mindscape before letting you build it alone. How will I know that my mind is well built? It will feel right. Now dispel your clones slowly, well eat and after that we will try the summoning jutsu. Without contract. Yes, hopefully, a summon that will complement your fighting style will answer. Jade finished his explanation. Naruto slowly dispelled his clones and then slowly started walking on the water. This time to his great pleasure he didn't sink right away. His chakra control already felt much better than yesterday. He returned to the shore, where two fish were cooking over the fire. Both brothers finished their meal and Jade showed Naruto the signs for the summoning jutsu. After some practice, the genin bit his tongue forcefully until blood started to come out and did the signs. There was a puff of smoke and before them stood two animals. Impressive, Jade said while looking at the summons, and Naruto smiled. The month-long training session between the second and the third exam was over. The Kazekage and his procession has arrived from Suna during that time as well as the Fire and Wind Daimyo and their entourage. The presence of the daimyos was important as the Chunin exam existed not only to promote genins into chunins but to present to the daimyos and possible clients the skills of the village ninjas. The Kages and the Jonin commanders were going to watch carefully the fights to decide who best represented the qualities of a future chunin, thus meant that even if a match was lost the defeated could still advance if he or she had a good strategy. Finally the big day came. The genin that had advanced were the whole of Team 7, Shikamaru and Neji as well as the Kazekage children. Team 7 was the talk of the village as there has been a long time since a whole team has advanced to the finals during the same exam and having the possibility of promotion. In fact the last time that this happened were the Chunin exams with the four-men team consisting of Jade, Itachi, Mia and Rui. Minato smiled as he noticed that Team 7 was all present and accounted for. He exhaled the breath he was holding as he didn't know if Kakashi was one of the Jonin that was training Naruto team and was worried that one of the genin was going to be late. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. He continued looking at them and saw the new confidence that oozed from the trio. The Hokage took a deep breath and said, "Welcome, esteemed guests to the final of these exams. Every genin participating in these exams showed amazing mastery of skills that represented the teachings of his or her village and presented us with something that we didn't had in a long time, an elimination round. The genin participating in this final round represent the best of the best and the following exam will show us if they have what it takes to become chunin. Now genin, show us your skills." Naruto looked at his teammates and saw the same resolve in their eyes as there was in his. With a nod the trio promised each other to do everything possible to advance. They heard the Jonin responsible to watch over the fights call for the first pair and everybody but Hinata and Neji left the stadium. Neji and Hinata fight. Neji was looking at Hinata with contempt. Being from the branch house he believed that he always had to prove himself. Fortunately since Minato had become Hokage, the seal application has been pushed to adulthood for all Hyuga. The seal itself was made with ink that after it was applied it became invisible. Still not everything was equal between the two branches of the Hyuga as there were still techniques that were reserved for the main branch. So Hinata-sama, do you think that you can defeat me? Me the prodigy of the Hyuga clan and you the shy heiress, that is scared to spar with her little sister. It is not fear that holds me back, Neji, when I spar with Hanabi. Then what? Nerves, face it, you are pathetic in the Hyuga taijutsu. Still, I am capable of keeping up and be on the same level with an Uchiha and the Hokage's son. If you are on the same level with them, then the Uchiha and the Hokage's son mustn't be that strong. Wrong, there, and my style of fighting is different than our clan because I am like the water. The water is one of the strongest elements. A river can be calm, however in the next moment the same river can become dangerous. Water can carve earth and quench fire. It is one of the most dangerous elements as one wrong move can be your last. Hinata finished and crouched in an unfamiliar stance to Neji, her father and the rest of the Hyuga. Her father looked at his brother and stared to ask. Did you know about this? This isn't a battle stance that I know of. Big sister has changed some of our traditional taijutsu to suit her better. She has taken the gentle fist and thicketed just enough to suit her needs without straying too far from our traditional style. Still, this small modification is just enough to make it different and unexpected, as she had told me many times after her missions, that some of the enemies that she encountered with her team underestimated her because we Hyuga basically don't change our battle style, and an enemy ninja must have only encounter a Hyuga 2 or 3 times during his missions to know how to fight us. Big sister never had this problem as her fighting style is constantly evolving, so the enemy cannot predict what her next movement will be, Hanabi said. Truly? Hiyashi asked. Are we that predictable? Hazashi asked. Unfortunately yes, Hanabi said. Hinata has started teaching me a little of her style and asked me to try and find my own. You can see the difference in the stance of both Hinata and Neji. The twin brothers looked at their children and saw exactly what Hanabi was explaining. Neji's stance was the traditional Hyuga stance of gentle fist, and both experienced ninja could guess what the boy's next few movements were going to be. On the other hand, Hinata's next movements were a total mystery for them. Then Neji began his attack. Neji came to Hinata with all his might, trying to block her chakra points, but was unable as his cousin managed to parry all his attacks with the minimum movement required from her, and almost at the last second as if she was playing with him. He stopped to take a breath and normalize his breathing and looked at Hinata. He expected to see the tired face of his cousin, but instead Hinata didn't look at all winded. Then he started a technique that was reserved for the main branch, but again Hinata blocked him. Finally enraged, he started to rotate, knowing that there was no way that Hinata was going to stop him. Hinata was ready for her cousin. The month-long chakra control training had not only doubled her reserves but had taught her how much chakra to expel during an attack or defense. Now her full chakra reserves were equal of around a third of Naruto, and being only in the beginning of the ninja career, she had the potential to augment them even more. She watched her cousin begin the rotation and smiling prepared herself. Hiyashi looked with pride at his daughter. Gone was the shy girl, and now at her place stood a young lioness. Every movement in the fight against her cousin had been made with precise calculations and the usage of the minimum amount of chakra from her. Hiyashi was pleased. With the things that he could already see, Hinata had good chance of becoming a Chunin. Then he was even more speechless as Hinata managed to stop the rotation, which was the Hyuga impervious defense. Hinata was watching carefully as Neji was coming closer to her with his rotation. As she became close to striking distance, she covered herself in chakra and entered the rotation. Once inside, she expelled her chakra and disrupted Neji's dome. That surprised her cousin and he fell down. Hinata took a kunai and pressed it to Neji's neck. Then she heard the overseer. Winner Hinata Hyuga. Hinata smiled, helped Neji to get up, and then she looked at her team. Naruto and Sasuke were smiling at her, and as she finally got to them they hugged her in congratulation. Then the trio watched the next two and they saw Shikamaru and Temari going down. After very slow fight, Shikamaru finally gave up due to chakra depletion. The next to be called were Sasuke and Kankuro. Sasuke and Kankuro fight. Sasuke smiled when he saw that his opponent was Kankuro. He was literally the worst opponent for the Suna ninja as he was very good with fire and Kankuro was a puppeteer. The Sand Ninja looked at his opponent and said, "So an Uchiha, sad for you, but you won't be able to copy my fighting technique." "Well, I am not like you usual Uchiha. I and my brother know how to fight without relying on our Sharingan. Furthermore, you and your teammates were the only team from Suna to participate in the exams, while my team was the only full team to survive until the final round." In the stands, Fugaki and Makoto were watching their youngest son fight carefully. The Uchiha head knew that it was his behavior that was pushed away both of his sons, but was too proud to apologize to them. Makoto looked at Kushina and smiled. She was grateful to her friend that she and her family had taken in her sons and given them the confidence in themselves. She knew that her husband was a proud man and with too high expectations for anybody, but especially her sons. If it wasn't for Itachi friends, her eldest would have cracked long ago, and when Fugaki had started to push these higher expectations to the shoulders of 7-year-old Sasuke, the then 12-year-old Itachi had taken Sasuke and had moved permanently in the Hokage house. Furthermore, she was proud to see that unlike her husband, neither of her sons relied too much of the Sharingan. Her attention turned towards Sasuke again and smiled as she recognized the seals for the great fireball technique. Kankuro was sweating. He had come to see that the Uchiha was the worst possible opponent for him as the boy had met each and every attack that he sent at him, and finally he was left only with his puppet. If it was any other enemy he would have been pleased, but now he was scared as he watched his favorite puppet being incinerated by the Uchiha fire. He then heard the overseer voice saying, "Winner Sasuke Uchiha." With the two cages, Minato and the Case Cage were looking at the matches with attention. The Case Cage was fuming as he had expected both of his children to defeat their opponents, and for now only his daughter has succeeded. However, hers was hollow victory as the boy she was fighting had given up due to chakra depletion. His hope for a victory over the Hokage now rested in his youngest son. Being the container of Shukaku, Gaara had a strong defense, and for now no one had managed to breach it, and he had defeated all his opponents sent to him. Yes, Gaara would bring him the victory, he just knew it. Minato watched carefully his son as he descended into the arena. He was very proud of Hinata and Sasuke fight, but he was really watching what his son was going to do. He saw Naruto and Gaara facing each other and the overseer starting the fight. Naruto and Gaara fight. Naruto looked at his opponent and started assessing him. Gaara's sand defense was already surrounding the red-haired boy, however few sand tendrils were circling in preparation to attack. He remembered what Jade had told him. Flashback. Jade looked at Naruto after a day spent practicing water manipulation. This week training has been hard and the blonde was exhausted. What is the purpose of trying to extract water? There is water everywhere and you can know how to extract it. You'll have water in any environment including the desert. Truly, yes. Now for the rest of the training, well, practice extraction water from the air, ground and even your sweat while you're being attacked. But why? Water extraction isn't easy and your opponent will not stay idle. Now the extraction that well concentrate on for the rest of your training is the ground extraction, however it must be done in such a way that your opponent must not notice until it's too late to do anything. Still don't understand. You will be fighting against Gaara, as you know. Yes, his defense is very effective. Yes, but not unbreakable. Now attacking him directly will be foolish as he no doubt will expect that. So while you dodge his attack you must saturate his sand with water, but doing it in such a way that he will not notice. So how you'll do that? Like this, Jade stood up and in a circle he made a sand castle. Your task is as follow: you need to saturate with water only what is in the circle. If you go beyond the circle you lose. How am I to do it? By following the steps. First try to bring the water to the surface. When you manage to do that, continue doing it until it is as easy as breathing. You can use shadow clones for that part. After that concentrate on the circle and sand castle and try to inundate it. When you succeed at this, well, continue with the next step. And that step is maintaining your concentration. I'll attack you with kunai and shuriken. Your task will be to saturate the castle with water while not breaking your concentration. Remember, concentration is key as Gaara won't stay still and wait for you. Naruto, it will be difficult, but if you manage to do it you'll be a step closer to becoming a Chunin. End flashback. Naruto looked at the sand tendrils and waited for them to attack. He had began his move the moment the overseer had given the go-ahead and he could already see water glistening on the end of the grass that surrounded the ball in which Gaara was. He noticed one of the tendrils come to him and he jumped. The whole stadium was looking at what the Hokage's son was doing and they were disappointed as it looked as if he was only dodging. Jiraiya came toward Jade in the Hokage Loge and said snarky. So 1 month and what you did? Nothing, as it shows that he is only dodging. If he had stayed with me then, he would have been frustrated and out of his mind, while you would have spent your time peeping on women. With me, he had learned summoning, his chakra manipulation and chakra control. Furthermore, what Naruto is doing right now, is exactly what he needs to do, Jade said to the speechless Jiraiya. Gaara noticed that with each moment his sand was getting more and more difficult to control until finally his perfect defense has become too heavy in it and his attacking sand crumbled and he wasn't even able to hold it. Minato looked at the arena and smiled. With what Jade had said he had guessed what Naruto was doing and watched with anticipation of what was to come next. He turned toward his black-haired son and nodded to him in congratulations. Jade smiled back and nodded to his father. Naruto finally stopped dodging as he saw that his strategy had paid off and Gaara's sand defense was crumbling. His second part of the plan could now be executed. He focused his wind chakra around Gaara's head and watched the Kazekage son lose conscious. The overseer came toward the two and checked the sand shinobi and then looked speechless at Naruto and then said, "Winner Naruto Uzumaki." Every spectator in the stadium looked speechless in the arena. What has the Hokage son done? In fact, what his whole team has genin were really strange as neither of them had used much techniques. The Kazekage was furious. From all his children only his daughter has managed to advance and he wasn't even sure if his daughter was going to continue beyond the second round. What was up with that team? Minato looked around and at the four waiting genin and he right away knew what his son team was doing. They were saving their real strength for the fights against each other. This first round was nothing that any of us have imagined, I am sure. Whether or not any of the participating genin deserve their promotion to Chunin is still unclear. Now please the four remaining genin go in the arena and pick one of 4 numbers, to see who is going to be his or her opponent. Team 7 and Temari looked at each other and descended in the arena and stopped in front of the overseer. In the man's hands there was a chest and each of them drew a number, then showed them to the man who announced. Fight 1 will be Temari of Suna against Sasuke Uchiha and Fight 2 Hinata Hyuga against Naruto Namikaze. Temari against Sasuke. Temari looked at Sasuke and smirked at the Uchiha as she believed that she would make him use his Sharingan. Too bad for you, but your fire chakra will be useless against me. Because you are a wind user, yes I know, however I am wondering what will happen to your fan. My fan? What do you mean? Well, while you are protected against my fire attack and you believe and expect that as most genin I have unlocked only one chakra nature, Sasuke smirked and Temari eye widened. You have a second one, she said faintly. Yes. Temari made then and there a mistake. She was so scared that she held her fan closer to her. Her senses then picked on the cracking air around her and her hair started to stand up due to the increased electricity in the air. In her scared mind she forgot to do the one thing that could have saved her and drove her fan away. The static electricity reached maximum charge and everyone saw the lightning hit Temari and propelling her in the wall. The static died down and the overseer cautiously approached Sasuke. Winner and the first person to advance to the final, Sasuke Uchiha. With Team Jade, Itachi was watching his brother proudly. The rigorous chakra control exercises that every one member of Team 7 did has paid off, as until now any new technique that they have learned had stayed secret and unknown to everybody but the team and their trainers. He looked at Jade and silently asked, "Until what stage is Naruto in his jutsu?" "He finished it yesterday," and Sasuke. "Same, it will be interesting to see the faces of Minato and Kakashi when they see these jutsu." "Hey Mia," Itachi said. "Hey guys, so ready to see which big brother training has been more effective?" "It is possible that Hinata goes against Sasuke," Mia Rui said. "Please guys," Mia and Hinata had prepared her for her match against Neji, and then for any other opponent but Sasuke and Naruto. So she has plain too. That is her wish and I'll respect her. With Hinata and Naruto, Hinata watched her opponent and turned toward the overseer as he was going to start the battle between them. "Overseer, I quit," she said. "Hinata." Naruto started. "Are you sure?" the overseer asked. "Yes, I am sure. Naruto is my teammate and I know my and his limits. He has bigger chakra capacity than me and has learned to open his sealed chakra points by flooding them with chakra, thus making my gentle fist ineffective. I can close his chakra points numerous times until I am out of chakra, he however will still have a pool of chakra left. Naruto is the worst possible opponent for me. If it was any other opponent I may have a chance, however in this fight this is not the case." "Then if you are sure, then the winner is Naruto Namikaze. The final battle of these exams will be between Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Namikaze." Minato stood up and everyone turned his or her gaze toward Konoha leader. His eyes roamed toward the section of the clan heads and saw the proud smiles on Hiashi and Makoto faces, even Fugaki was looking toward his youngest son proudly. His eyes finished their tour of the stadium and he prepared himself for what he had to say. These exams were certainly interesting. Each and every stage was designed to test the teams in such a way to push each and every genin that participated in them. Becoming a chunin is an important step in every ninja career and there are many factors that us the cages must decide on before such a big step is taken. The final match and final assessment will be in 2 days. These couple of days will be spent in preparation for the fighters and me and the cage will go over each and every match that was fought until now, in order to see if the participants deserve a promotion or not. Thank you everybody and see you in 2 days for the final match. Minato watched as his son and Sasuke were being surrounded by the rest of their friends and being congratulated for their fight. Then his eyes met Jade and Itachi and then and there he knew that everything has gone to plan. Both boys had prepared their younger brothers for an all-out fight. The Hokage nodded approvingly, as one of the qualities wanted in Chunin were ninjas who knew how and where to spend their efforts and it looked that Team 7, Shikamaru and Temari had what it took to take this important step in their career. With the Chunin committee, Minato was in his office. With him were the Kazekage and both the Jonin commanders of Suna and Konoha. The 4 ninjas were watching the replay of the matches and were talking about the results. The 2 cages turned to their highest-ranking ninjas. "Your thoughts about the matches that we have seen until now?" Temari of Suna, "Deserved to be Chunin," Shukaku said to the surprise of the Sand representatives. "But why?" asked the Kazekage. "She lost against the Uchiha. We are watching at her matches as a whole, thus including the elimination round. She knows how to use her weapon at its most efficient way, she is mindful in her usage of her chakra, and she can fight a variety of opponents. The fact that she lost against Sasuke is not a slight against her," said Shukaku. Question: What was up with the Uchiha Genin? I didn't expect his clan to have trained him so good. The Kazekage said the kid knew what were his nature affinity. This is not a training given by the Uchiha clan. You see, the Uchiha are very proud and they depend too much on the Sharingan. Minato said Sasuke and Itachi are the sons of the clan head. When he saw that he could not push his high expectation on Itachi, he started pushing them on Sasuke, who was 7 at the time. Itachi had enough of his father's actions, took Sasuke and came to live with us. The 2 of them are practically family. Itachi is also in my eldest son Jade team, so I expect that the fight between them would be a sight to see as they are trained by some of the best in the village. But to return to the matter of hand, so for now we have Temari of Suna as a Chunin. I am sorry Kazekage, but we believe that neither of your boys are fit to be Chunin at this time. Let us explain. Kankuro is overly specialized with his puppets and he doesn't have many jutsu that do not depend on them. If it wasn't a friendly match but they were real enemies, Sasuke could have killed Kankuro as he was defenseless when the fire destroyed his puppet, Shukaku said. Furthermore, Gaara depends too much on his sand. We don't know if it's because of his guest, Minato said to the alarm of the Kazekage, or not. What Naruto did was a surprise for us too, as we didn't have any water in the arena and yet he managed to render Gaara ultimate weapon ineffective rather quickly, so He needs to learn to not rely too much on the sand if he want to advance. We understand and thank you for your insight in our genin fighting styles. Not many opposite leaders will explain their reasoning and in the same time offer insight in our genin fighting styles. Now the Hyuga girl said the case she knows how to fight, and the best use of her chakra as we saw how she destroyed her opponent's ultimate defense. Furthermore she knows her limitations and explained them to us when she was set against your son Hokage-sama, the case said. The question is, does she deserve to be promoted to Chunin? Minato asked. Yes she does, Lord Hokage Shikaku said. Okay, Shikamaru now. He has a strategic mind, he is calculative and knows his strength and weaknesses. He knows how to use his opponent's moves against them. He deserves to be Chunin, the Suna Jonin said. So another one, for now, we have Tamari of Suna and Shikamaru and Hinata of Konoha. Now Neji, is he deserving to be Chunin? For now no, Minato. Said Shikamaru, father, he is to set in his dislike of the main branch, even if the politics of the Hyuga have been changed thanks to your work. Maybe next Chunin exam he will be ready, but not now. 2 days later, the whole stadium was full to the brim with spectators came to see the final match of the Chunin exams between the Hokage heir and the Uchiha heir. There was also a quiet betting between Jade and Itachi Junin, friends of whose little brother was going to be victorious. The rookie 9 and 10, Neji and Lee encircled Sasuke and Naruto to wish them good luck in the final match. Soon they saw Minato getting up from his chair and all the stadium quiet down. Welcome everybody to the final match of these Chunin exams. We have seen much prospective talent and even some genin that were so good that after discussion with the Suna representatives we have selected the possible Chunins. However, this decision is not yet final as we have one highly anticipated match. Sasuke, Naruto, show us what you've got and if you deserve a green vest. Hi Hokage-sama, the two genin in the arena said. Sasuke and Naruto match. The two genin looked at each other and knew that this time the battle was going to be serious and they will need all of their tricks and lessons they have learned during this 1 month of training to defeat their opponents. Sasuke closed his eyes and when he opened them a fully evolved Sharingan was visible. The message to the whole stadium was clear. This match was going to be all out. Sasuke looked at Naruto and prepared himself to throw some ninja stars and kunai. He didn't expect that they were going to do much and he wasn't disappointed as Naruto met his weapons with a throw of his. Sasuke then started to do the signs for the grand fireball techniques, but once again he was met in the middle by Naruto water bullet jutsu. The resulting steam covered a good part of the arena. Naruto looked in the Sharingan eyes of his best friend and knew that this match was going to be serious. He took his shuriken and kunai and tossed his weapons at the same time as Sasuke did his, and watched how the weapons impacted each other and fell uselessly to the ground. He always watched Sasuke's hands and saw that his friend was preparing a great fireball technique. He followed right away with a water bullet jutsu and the two techniques met each other in the middle and their collision covered the space between them with steam. Knowing that small techniques weren't going to be effective, Sasuke prepared himself to cast one of his most destructive fire techniques. Soon surrounding him was an immense phoenix made of fire. Fugaki's eyes widened when he saw the power of his youngest son and again cursed his hard behavior with his sons. Every ninja around in the stadium didn't know what to say. These genin were something else, especially as not long after the phoenix a huge water dragon appeared behind Naruto. Then and there everybody knew the warm-up rounds was over and the real fight has begun. As Tamari watched the battle she was very happy that Sasuke wasn't serious during their match. Everybody watched as the two huge animals charged at each other and again they cancelled each other, this time however the whole arena was obscured. Naruto watched as his dragon engulfed Sasuke Phoenix and the steam it produced. The whole arena was covered and soon the only thing that could the two boys see were each other. Both of them were exhausted and knew that half their chakra was gone. Indentured however they continued to fight and soon at the place of the phoenix stood a lightning Kirin and another dragon. This time made of air instead of water. Jiraiya looked speechless at the arena and could not believe the power these kids had and turned toward Jade and Itachi, the two ninjas being in the Hokage box. How did you manage that? The Sannin asked. With a lot of chakra control exercises, shadow clones and encouragements, Jade said. Furthermore the two of them have summoning contracts and at least Naruto is on good terms with his bosses. Sasuke also interjected Itachi. But Jiraiya started to say not knowing what or how to finish it. Only Minato catching that Naruto had more than one summoning animals. How much chakra have they left? Asked the cage interested and both of the big brothers looked at the arena and as one said. This next attack will be the deciding factor, of who wins, who loses or if it's going to be a tie. Hokage-sama, Kakashi you better watch. The two mentioned individuals turned their eyes toward the arena where the last signs of the lightning and wind attacks were disappearing and their eyes widened as around Sasuke could be heard a bird's chirping and a perfect Chidori formed in his arms and in Naruto's arm a blue chakra orb could be seen spinning. Are those? The two men started to ask and looked at Jade and Itachi and as one they nodded. Yes. How long did it take them? 2 weeks. They finished their jutsu the day before the exam started. Incredible, Minato said with pride. But I wanted to teach him the Rasengan wine Jiraiya. The only way I will leave Naruto in your tender care is only if ordered by the Hokage himself, Jade said with venom in his voice. You may be a Sannin, however your method of teaching has changed and there is a lot to be desired. If you are given a student now, you'll give him or her a task and then disappear peeking in the women onsen, and if your student is in danger it may be too late to help him or her if attacked because you were somewhere peeping or drinking. What good is to be a Sannin when the people around you cannot count on you to be there when it really matters? What about Kakashi? Jiraiya said, trying to get in trouble the perverted Jonin. The vice of Kakashi is that he is chronically late. He may read your literature on a D rank mission, but he is always there to help his students. The elemental jutsu that were used by our brothers had the solid base in many chakra control exercises. Heck, the method of all of Team 7 previous fights were based on his teaching and look how far it got them. Itachi finished the explanation. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other before lunging forward. The two genin knew that this was going to be their last attack as they were low on chakra. The two back-to-back high-level jutsu that each of them had produced had drained them of most of their resources. The two chakra-based attacks met, each battling for dominance until there was a huge explosion which propelled both boys at the opposing ends of the arena. Everyone wondered if they were going to get up and the overseer was going to declare the result of the exams when finally the boys with difficulty stood. They looked at each other and nodded before starting to fall again. The last thing they saw were their big brothers catching them, and they heard the Hokage voice call the result of the match, but both lost their battle to stay awake before the result was announced. Kakashi arrived at the arena and went to see how his two male students were. He looked at them and smiled as he saw that it was only chakra exhaustion and turned toward Itachi. I am impressed. I didn't expect neither Sasuke or Naruto to finish the final two jutsu for the exam. We were surprised too. Both of them need certain work that we cannot give them as only the creators of these jutsu can, as while I know the steps of the Rasengan, I promised to myself that I want to learn it as this and the Hiraishin are techniques invented by Minato, and I consider them on the same level as clan techniques, and without the permission of the clan head I am not even attempting them. This is why I am also staying away from some of the Uchiha personal jutsu, as I may have the Sharingan. However, the method I obtained mine is artificially, and while I can use it as well as a born Uchiha, there are limits that I will not cross, Jade said while looking at both Fugaki and Minato. Both men were surprised at the confession of the young Jonin. He was one of the best in the village, and yet he considered Minato two jutsus as a clan techniques, thus making him unable to learn them without the permission of the clan head. Fugaki's respect for the young man grew even more. He knew that Kakashi had learned some of his clan personal techniques due to the fact that he had Obito donated Sharingan. Jade, however, had two functioning Sharingans that were rightfully his, and yet because he was not born an Uchiha he didn't want to touch. His thoughts, however, turned darker. There were unconfirmed rumors that both Itachi and Jade had developed the famed Mandako Sharingan. Few Uchiha developed this Sharingan because of the requirements to unlock it. Also, there was the danger of going blind with his usage. His resolve grew, and for the good of his eldest son and his best friend he was going to confront both boys. Decision made, he turned toward Itachi and said, Itachi. Yes, father. I want you and Jade to pass by the compound after the Chunin selection is done, as I have something important to tell you. If this is important and concerns your family, maybe it's better that I don't come. No, Jade, you will come, as this information concerns the Sharingan and you must know of it. I understand, Fugaki-sama said Jade, and bowed respectfully to the Uchiha head, and he and Itachi watched him look at Sasuke and to their surprise heard the proud Uchiha head said, I am proud of you, son. You have become strong, moving at your own rhythm, and even surpassed the things that I could possibly teach you. He will be fine, Father, Itachi said. Maybe after the results are announced you and Makoto-sama can have dinner with Itachi and Sasuke, Mia quickly said. I would like that, Makoto said before her husband had the time to reject the idea. So it is decided, a family dinner to celebrate the end of the exams regardless of the results of the fight, said Rui fast to Itachi horror. 3 days later, the genin participating in the third round were in the arena once again waiting for the results. They saw Minato and the Cage standing up and the stadium quieted, keeping their breath. These exams were incredible, but now let's announce the new Chunin. From Suna Tamari of the Sand, said Minato, and from Konoha, Hinata Hyuga, Shikamaru Nara, Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Namikaze. When Tamari heard that, she could not believe it. She had advanced, she had become a Chunin. In fact, she was the only one to be promoted from Sand. Hinata, Sasuke and Naruto looked at each other and were unable to believe last time a full team had become Chunin was when Itachi, Jade, Rui and Mia were genin. Shikamaru could think only of one word which summed his situation. Troublesome. The Hokage office a month after the exams. In front of Minato stood Jiraiya and Jade. The old Sannin was there to give a report of what he has discovered while he was away from the village, and the news were not good. A missing nin group by the name of Akatsuki was starting to move in the shadows. For now they were recruiting members, but in approximately 3 years they were going to start their master plan, extract the tailed beasts. These news are disconcerting. Any suggestions? Minato looked at his sensei and his son. Minato, I want to take Naruto to train for 3 years, said Jiraiya. And in what are you going to train him? Asked Jade. I am going to train him in controlling the Kyuubi, said the Sannin. However, I was not aware that you are a Jinchuriki, snarked Jade. I am not. Then how are you going to do it? Push my brother to his breaking point until he is forced to tap in its chakra. Jade eyes were hard. I will not let you endanger Naruto. You may be a seal master, however you don't have a clue of the functioning of the seal. And you do, the Sannin challenged him. No, as I am not an Uzumaki and I am not a seal master, however your plan has a huge flaw. And that it, you continue to treat like a monster. A caged animal will always try to hurt the one that is keeping him contained. In this case, that is Naruto. You basically have told me and Minato that you are going to train Naruto to control the most powerful tailed beast. Well, I am against it. How are you going to proceed then, Jade? Minato looked at his son. Knowing you and your way of training, you most likely will be doing your research. Akatsuki is composed of S-class missing nin. Imagine what could happen if Naruto stumbles on one of these nins while alone. He'll be dead at that. Minato looked sharply at his sensei and saw the true in Jade words. However, if he is with me, he will benefit of Kushina training in his interaction with the fox as she was a host. Furthermore, Father will be able to start the base of Hiraishin and maybe finish even if the group is composed of S-rank nin. Father reputation is well founded and my team is composed of one of the strongest ninjas in the village. Jade finished. Minato, then it is your choice, Jiraiya said looking at his student. You two have good points, however I must think what is best for Naruto. Minato looked at them. I will think about it and tell you tomorrow. Minato, Jiraiya said, leave me alone now. The two looked at each other and Jiraiya left the office. However, Jade stopped at the door. Jade, Minato started, I am going, but please talk with Naruto as this concerns him. I understand, the Hokage said and watched as Jade left the office. The same night, Minato returned from the office and saw that the house was quiet. He saw only Kushina and Naruto and started to ask where everybody was but was beaten by Naruto. Itachi and Sasuke are at dinner with their parents at the Uchiha compound, Hinata is with her family, Mia and Rui are on a date and Jade is out with his familiars. Naruto explained fast, anticipating his father's question. Oh. Well, it does not matter as I have something to discuss with you. My future training, right? Yes, you see today I have been presented with 2 options. What are they? Kushina asked. Well, option 1 is Jiraiya to take Naruto for a 3 years training trip out of the village. He proposes to train you in handling the Kyuubi. Also, if you are on the move and S-rank missing nin group, will have difficulty to pinpoint your location. However, there is the matter of Jiraiya research as Jade pointed it out. Minato, this is not a good idea. Jiraiya is not an Uzumaki, how he expect to train the fox? Mom, Dad, I have a confession to make. Naruto knew that it was time to tell them. Even Jade don't know about the scale of what I have done. The two parents looked at him and started sizing their son before exhaling and preparing themselves for the bombshell that Naruto was going to drop on them. Honey, what have you done? Kushina asked. Well, while we were training during the month-long break between the elimination and the final round, Jade and I entered his mindscape and I saw how it was made and protected. So he sent me to my mindscape to put the groundworks on how my mind was going to be built. Continue, said Minato while watching his son carefully. You see, I saw a river that wasn't like the others and I followed it to a cave. On the cave entrance there were bars and the word seal. I have effectively found the fox lair. Jade then pulled me out, and has explained what I have found. He forbade me to continue forward without one of you as you mom understood the fox and you dad sealed it. But let me guess, you ignored your brother. Minato sighed. Yes, every night while I was asleep, I went to the cave. Naruto, Kushina started. At first, I only stood there in a safe distance until the fox got used to me, then the next step was to get him used to my voice and... He did. Minato guesses. Yes, Naruto nodded. After some time as it was my mindscape I made his cave bigger and more spacious. At that time he got suspicious as the only actions I have taken was to talk with him and to get him more comfortable. You see, because of the nature of the past seals he was virtually a prisoner. Kushina finished. Yes, so the Kyuubi was puzzled with my actions, until he proposed to give me some of his chakra if I needed it. Wait, he proposed? Minato said odd. Yes, however, Dad, I refused. Naruto looked at his father. But why? While I am grateful, however my body and chakra coils aren't developed enough for sustaining the force of the fox chakra. Jade explained to me, that a first year in Hogwarts wasn't expected to know the spell for a 3rd or 4th year as their magical core isn't developed enough. Maybe in 6 months I'll be able to pass a little bit of the fox chakra in my coils, but right now, I am unable. Dad, Jiraiya will not care about that and he will force me to enter tailed beast mode. This will hurt me. This is very mature of you, son. Minato smiled at Naruto. Naru, I am so proud of you. Kushina also said. So me and him worked on another agreement. Naruto said proudly. Another agreement? Yes, do you know that foxes also have a summoning contract? No, well it turned out that the fox was originally a boss summon. You see, all of the tailed beasts have a summoning contracts, as in the sense they are the bosses of their contract. However, as some of the strongest summons in the ninja world, their contracts are very hard to come by. The two parents looked interested at that information. I won't tell you how and what is needed to obtain these contracts, as it is the decision of the tailed beast if it wants you share it. Minato looked at his son and smiled as he understood. You have been found worthy by the Kyuubi, the father smiled. Yes, one of my contracts are with the tailed foxes and the fox is their boss. So let me guess, you gathered enough chakra and you summoned the fox. Kushina has noticed that his son never called the fox Kyuubi. Yes, and when I released him he disappeared in the summoning realm while leaving me for now with a half tail of his chakra. As time passes, he would give me more of his chakra until I have the equivalent of 3 to 4 tails of chakra. This is the maximum that my body can handle without me getting dangerously hurt. In a sense, the fox has become my familiar like shade. Apollo and Onyx are for Jade. Naruto finished. So sensei plan is out, Minato said. How many contracts do you have? Kushina asked curiously. 2. 1 air the foxes, while the other I'll keep secret for now. Naruto smiled. Understood. Minato eyes sparkled. The following morning, Jade and Jiraiya were in front of Minato. The two ninja were waiting for the Hokage final decision. The father looked at both of them and his through turned to everything he had learned from Naruto. Sensei, you will not be training Naruto, as his relationship with the fox had changed, Minato said to Jiraiya. But he must be trained, the old ninja said. And he will be, however not in the normal ways. Jade, can you train Naruto in the familiar bond? At that Jade looked at him. You mean, the boy started. Yes, well this will be interesting, said Jade. What do you mean? Jiraiya asked, puzzled. Let's say that Akatsuki plan is busted and they don't have any idea about it. Still, I wish that Naruto has waited with making the contact, Jade said. What is done, Minato said. So Jiraiya Naruto stays here as a factor in his training has changed and only Jade, Mia and Rui can tackle it. But Jiraiya didn't know what to say. Your spying is very important for the village, as any info about the group is important, Jade said. If you send us info, our strongest ninjas will be able to intercept and tin out the group. Minato, you are sure? The Sannin looked at the two ninjas and they nodded, understood, and with that Jiraiya left the office. At the same time, Minato talked to Naruto and Kushina. With Itachi and Sasuke. Itachi and Sasuke stood in the Uchiha mansion and looked each other unsurely. Neither of them had entered their childhood home in a long time. Both brothers looked at their parents, not knowing if they needed to say something first or not. Fortunately, Makoto decided to talk first. Itachi, Sasuke, thank you for accepting our dinner invitation, the Uchiha matriarch said. Yes, your fight, Sasuke, was amazing, however I was disappointed to not see you using the Sharingan in all your battles, Fugaki said. Itachi looked at his father with contempt. He should have known, everything important to this man revolved around their eyes. He started saying something but he was stopped by his brother. Truly, how low has the clan fallen? His brother said. What do you mean, boy? Fugaki exploded. What I mean is that most of the Uchiha aren't that strong or impressive anymore, Sasuke continued. After all, the Sharingan is the copy Idojutsu, which makes the typical Uchiha a jack of all trades. What? Fugaki yelled again. Knowing many jutsus, but masters of none. Tell me truly, how many jutsus in your arsenal you truly understand? Sasuke asked. Sasuke, Makoto started. After all, even Kakashi, who has copied many techniques with his eye, takes the time. I have learned that the Sharingan is a tool that we the Uchiha have in our arsenal on the same level as a kunai. The fact that we have it do not makes us better than the typical ninja. On some levels Jade can use his Sharingan eyes better than Itachi, and my elder brother, as you said it yourself, is a prodigy among the clan. It is not the eyes that makes us special, is the way that we use them. As Makoto heard that, she was very proud of her sons. She was as proud as her husband, however, she knew that the eyes that made the Uchiha famous weren't all powerful as her husband believed. She noticed how red was Fugaki and tries to run interference but was too late. Out of my house in the Uchiha compound. The Sharingan is the most important technique that Konoha has, and I will not let you destroy this belief. Itachi looked at his father, then at his mother and his brother. He was proud of Sasuke as his younger brother knew the importance of the Sharingan in a way that their father would never know. With a nod to their mother, both boys left their birth house. As the door of the compound closed behind them, Sasuke turned toward Itachi and innocently asked. Sadango. When he heard that, Itachi laughed and both brothers disappeared in the busy Konoha streets toward their favorite dango restaurant. With Mia and Rui. Mia and Rui looked at each other smiling. It was a long time that the couple had time for themselves, and Rui had decided to surprise Mia with a night in the town while playing some carnival games, then a picnic on the Hokage monuments and stargazing to finish the night. Few days ago a traveling carnival has stopped in the village and many ninjas and civilians flocked to the numerous games. The couple stopped in front of a shuriken throwing game that had lots of prizes hanging on their roof. Mia's eyes zeroed in on a large plush dragon. The dragon was unusual for the elemental countries, as most dragon images that could be found were of the typical Eastern dragons' depictions of the Asian dragons in China and Japan. This plush dragon looked like the European dragon's images, with 4 legs and wings. Another thing that Mia liked about the plushie was its color. It was pale silver, almost white, with gray eyes. She showed the plushie to Rui and the boy smiled and laughed when he saw the dragon. He paid the vendor the money, received the shuriken, and 5 minutes later Mia was the proud owner of the plushie, which from now on was named, to the amusement of Rui, Draco. The couple passed the time playing many carnival games and trying to find the best animal plush that closely represented their family. Soon Rui was the proud owner of a lioness, which he named Athena for Mia's love of learning. Draco and Athena were soon joined by a raven plush that represented Itachi, a white lion plushie for Minato as being the Hokage. He was effectively the king of the village, and a tiger plushie for Kushina. The next trio of plushies were a beautiful swan for Hinata, a fox for Naruto, and a black wolf for Sasuke. The trio of animals were joined by a silver wolf, for which Mia has decided to do some modifications, as she won also a plush Konoha headband. The most difficult person to find a plushie for was Jade, as many animals could very well symbolize him. After much searching, Rui saw the perfect animal and showed it to Mia. The girl smiled, and soon the plushie had joined the others in the storage seal. The couple finally found themselves on the top of the Hokage monument, where the picnic basket was laid in an aid as they watched the starry skies. Rui looked at Mia and said to her, "Hermione, you and Harry were the people who saw me differently than the others. In our first world I was Draco Malfoy, the son of Lucius Malfoy, a Death Eater and the right hand of Voldemort. You two showed me that I can walk my own path and not be a copy of my father. For that I thank you. The most wonderful moment was when you accepted to be my girlfriend. You made me a better person. Now, in this world, you are still with me, and I wish that you spend the years which we have left with me. So if you have me, will you marry me?" Draco said, and showed her a beautiful ring made in gold, with an infinity loop encased in ruby and emerald. Draco: "Yes, yes, I will marry you." Hermione jumped with joy and let Draco put the ring on her. "Fantastic, thank you. Now we only need to tell the family that we are going to marry." I shudder with the though of Kushina arranging our wedding. With Hinata. Hinata was training Hanabi in her new style. She had noticed that her sister has having problem in the clan style, so was helping her with what she could. Furthermore, it was a good bonding time for the sisters. With Jade. A few months ago, Shade has become secretive, and now his leopard wants to show something to him, and only to him. Now Jade was following his Nindu until the big cat stopped in front of a rock formation. Then the big cat started meowing gently, and soon 3 small bodies came out of the rocks, followed by a leopard almost as big as Shade. As Jade saw the new family, he smiled and prepared himself to go when he sensed a pull on his jeans and saw one of the cubs. He turned toward Shade and the leopard and saw the female approaching and taking the cub. "Congratulations, Shade, on the family. I'll leave you to them." With that, the young man disappeared into the forest. Jade stood in front of Minato and waited patiently for his father to finish looking through the papers. Soon after, Minato looked at him and the boy knew that something bothered his leader. "Jade, Jiraiya has sent a worrisome news." "What kind of news, Hokage-sama?" "There is nothing concrete, however in his reports there is a mention of an area that may or may not hold an old layer of Orochimaru." "So a reconnaissance mission?" "Yes, because of the nature of the information as it concerns Orochimaru and the availability of the details that we have, this is a solo S-rank mission." Minato gave the parameters. "A solo S-rank, isn't it dangerous?" "There is that possibility, but because we have so few details from the information, even if it's dangerous, I want to send the fewer possible ninjas, and you are one of the best ninjas that I have. Furthermore, you know what to look for if indeed concerns Orochimaru. As always, you will have one of my kunai to call me if something goes wrong." "Can I read my team into the mission's parameters?" "No, the mission is secret." "Not even Itachi?" Jade said, hoping to receive permission. However, "I am sorry, Jade, not even him," Minato said. "I don't like it, but okay. How often do you need me to report, or it's total darkness?" "If possible once a week, and Jade alone, not even Shade, Flare or Onyx are to come with you." "Understood, I'll go and prepare myself," said the team. Minato watched him leave his office, hoping that he has not made a mistake sending his son without backup or help, but this was the ninja's life, as sometimes ninjas had to do solo missions. With Jade. Jade returned to the house and saw that the compound was empty. He knew that the new Chunins didn't have a mission, so the trio was most likely with their friends, but he didn't know the location of the others. However, he was pretty confident with the location of his familiars. Flare was most likely in the hospital helping Tsunade, and Shade and Onyx were most likely in the Forest of Death, Shade with his new family and Onyx doing whatever the basilisk wanted at the moment. Jade had put everything he needed for his mission in a backpack when he saw the door opening and Itachi walking through. The eldest of the Uchiha brothers stopped as he saw the backpack and looked at him. A solo mission from the Hokage, said Jade. Everything all right? Yes, Minato want me to check something that Jiraiya have sent him. You sure? Do you want me to accompany you? Itachi saw that Jade took his time to answer. No, there's no need, you know the old pervert, I am sure that is nothing serious. When are you going to be back? Depending of how fast I'll meet the pervert and check if there is anything to check, said Jade, knowing that Jiraiya wasn't going to be there. Jade, let me come with you. Everything is going to be fine. Itachi, Minato will have news of my mission, so don't worry about me. Jade put his arm on his friend's shoulder and left the house under the watchful gaze of his friend. 3 weeks later, Land of the Sea. The information that Jiraiya has given Minato had sent Jade all the way from Konoha to the Land of the Sea. The information that the pervert had sent to his student was accurate, as Jade had found some remnants of what used to be old layers of Orochimaru and had sent with his snake's summons all relevant informations that he had found. Now there was only one layer left to check, and finally he could return home. Jade had hanged in a nondescript mail and was walking in one of the numerous villages around the coast. He knew that the final lair was somewhere close by, but was unable to pinpoint it. That is why he was presently in one of the village bars drinking sake and listening for something unusual. Then he heard 3 men discussing something on one of the farthest tables. He enhanced his hearing with chakra and the voices were now clear. Do you think that it will happen again tonight? One of the villagers were asking. I don't know, I hope not, the second said. Do you want to be next? The third villager asked the first one. No, of course not, however, I am scared as something unnatural is happening around this time of the month. Don't talk about it, the third villager again shushed his drinking partner, and soon their conversation turned to other things. Jade turned toward the barman and made a sign to him. The man came and poured another bowl of sake to Jade, but was stopped by his question. What is going on? Everyone here seems on edge. The barman looked at him strangely, then asked. I see you for the first time here, who are you? Just a traveler, who heard about the beauty of the Land of the Sea and wanted to see it for my own eyes. You see, I never before have seen the sea and wanted to see for myself its beauty. I arrived today in your village, however, as I mentioned before, everyone is on edge. This is because there are strange things happening around the time of the new moon, the barman said. Strange? How strange? People disappear and are never seen alive again. People started to hide themselves in their houses during the night, and tonight everybody will be extra careful. Why? Jade asked. It is the night of the new moon, the barman finished and left to serve his other customers. What nobody knew was that the one responsible for the disappearances used this particular bar to choose his victims. He had noticed the traveler who had come today in the village and that presently was talking with the barman. His victim chosen, he smiled internally, paid for his drink and left the establishment to make final preparations. Playing the role of the non-believing traveler, Jade armed himself and left the inn where he was staying the night. The fresh night air greeted him. The young man activated his Sharingan, trying to see if there was a person or persons who emitted strong chakra signatures. His search brought him to the edge of a forest, and soon he was forced to deactivate his eyes due to many different traces of old chakra signatures. Suddenly he heard the air moving and he jumped. In the place he had stood there was a kunai. Soon others kunai zoomed in on him and he had to evade them. Unfortunately the kunai were too many, and pretty soon, Jade found himself tied up. Undeterred, he started searching for the kunai which would summon the Hokage, but cursed as he didn't find him. From the darkness, flew 2 Senbon needles and lodged themselves in his neck. A minute later, his vision started to fade and the last thing he felt before losing conscious was the rag in front of his mouth. Hours later, Jade slowly returned to a state of semi-consciousness and found himself in a strange room. The room looked as if it was cut from the rock. Having a huge headache, he tried to put his fingers on his forehead to dispel it when he noticed that he had no range of movements and his arms were heavier than usual. His foggy mind heard a door opening and steps coming closer to him. The steps stopped in front of him and very quickly put one of his arms higher and soon felt coldness around his wrist. His second arm followed the first one and soon he was unable to move, continued to hear the movement of chain but was still unable to wake up completely, and soon he felt the cold around his ankles and felt that he had limited mobility with them. Lastly he felt a metal choker around his neck that was closed and locked. The last thing that the person in front of him did was to put a vial of something in front of his mouth and made him drink it. Fiery pain immediately raced throughout his whole body and the little consciousness he had faded away. The kidnapper could not believe his luck. In the past he had worked for Orochimaru and was one of his best researchers. He had heard of the demise of the Sannin and had rejoiced as his life work was not exactly to his benefactor taste. His work consisted of a potion that changed the sex of the person who had ingested it. Men turned into women, and women into men, and best of all, the change was permanent and irreversible. His previous tests had always ended in failure, with the subject dying during the transformation as their bodies could not survive the stress, but this time his newest test subject has turned out to be a ninja with huge chakra coils. Discovering this, the scientist had given him another dose of the sleeping drug and then he took all his weapons and clothes before chaining his legs and arms. He then went to the lab to make final preparations on his potion, while watching on a video screen the movements of his guest. After few hours he had noticed movement and smiled. That was perfect timing as he had finished his final adjustment of the formula a few hours later. He took the vial with his life work and went to the dungeon where his guest could be found in one of the smallest cells. Mindful of the fact that his test subject was a ninja, he took carefully his arms and one by one shackled them over his head, then shackled his feet and neck, this way immobilizing him completely. Job done. He poured the potion into his mouth, looked once again at the naked body and left the cell. Unknown time later, Jade awoke suddenly and violently. His whole body was in pain. He tried to move his arms and legs but was unable. He tried to look around him, however he was unable as something held him firmly. His whole body shivered and he guessed that he was naked. He tried to remember how he found himself in this situation, however he was unable, as one of the drug properties was to make the subject forget the couple of hours before its injection. His whole body seized with pain before once again losing consciousness, his last thoughts of wanting to know what has led to this situation. However, Jade's question would be unanswered as days before the scientist had cut himself with one of the ninja weapons. From all the weapons available, the man had cut himself in the only one drenched in basilisk venom. His end was quick as he didn't had time to understand what was happening to him, before he felt dead. Now the only living person in the hideout was his chained prisoner. Konoha 2 weeks later. Itachi was losing his mind. 5 weeks ago his best friend has left for his solo mission and for 2 now he didn't have any news. He was at first surprised when one of Jade's snakes popped in his room a week after his departure, but quickly turned to relief as the snake gave him a letter from Jade. While devoid of any details about the mission, Jade was keeping him updated on his well-being, however these messages have stopped 2 weeks ago and Itachi knew that something had happened. Finally having enough of being kept in the dark, he decided to do something. He summoned his crows and sent them out, while he himself went to Training Ground 7. An hour later the group was assembled. Itachi, what is going on? Hinata asked. I believe that Jade is in trouble. 5 weeks ago, he was sent on a simple reconnaissance mission by the Hokage. So that is why, we haven't seen him, Rui said. He was sending me updates, once a week to tell me how he was doing, with no mission details of course. He then looked at his family 2 weeks ago these messages stopped. At first I believed that he was unable to send me a notice due to the nature of his mission, however. The second week came Mia finished. Yes, now what am I about to tell you is worrisome. I don't believe that it was a simple reconnaissance mission as when I asked him if he wants me to come with him he hesitated, as if he was hiding something. I was seeing in his eyes that he knew that going alone was not a good idea, however he was ordered to, as he didn't take any of his familiars. What are we going to do? Hinata asked. We are going to my father and requesting the parameters of Jade mission as this is no more a reconnaissance mission but a search and rescue mission. Then let's go, Mia said with steel in her voice. With Minato. Minato was getting worried as it was 2 weeks since Jade's last mission update. He was thinking what to do when he heard the yell of his secretary and soon after his office was invaded by his family. How, may I help you? Minato asked and Itachi looked at him and just said one word. Jade and Minato knew that the group was here about his missing son. What do you know about the mission he was on? We know that it was a reconnaissance mission, that apparently didn't require backup of any sort. Let me read you into the mission. 6 weeks ago, Jiraiya contacts told him about possible lairs of the dead Sannin, Orochimaru. The nature of the mission required only one person, and because it concerned Orochimaru, the mission was logged as an S-ranked mission. Jade was following the hidden lairs traces and every single one that he checked was empty. 2.5 weeks ago his information led him to the land of sea, where there was a supposed lair. Did he find it? Mia asked. I don't know as he didn't report back to me. This was 2 weeks ago. Then send us there, Naruto said. I have not received a distress call from him, maybe he needed to go dark. Jade would have told me with a message, Itachi countered. Told you? Yes, he was sending me messages about his well-being. Nothing about the mission, but if he was going undercover he would have told me, Itachi explained. Minato looked at the 6 of them and saw their resolve and knew that now that they had the last known location of Jade they were going to leave the village, with or without his help. Decision made, he turned toward the group. Return home and take your gear and be back here in 30 minutes. No need, we are already prepared, Sasuke said and everybody showed their storage scrolls. Okay, Itachi, you are first. First, the 7 of us are going to the land of the sea. Itachi nodded and gave his hand before he and Itachi jumped and found themselves in a small hotel room. Minato left Itachi and soon Mia and Rui joined their friend. The 2 of them looked at their surroundings, nodded and popped back to Konoha to bring the young Chunin. Land of the sea. While Minato was bringing his teammates, Itachi looked at the hotel room and the only thing that marked the room as one that Jade has lived in was Minato Kunai. As it was found under the bed, Itachi concluded that it has just fell out of his friend Kit when he has gone for the day. My kunai, Minato stated as he looked at it. Yes, found it under the bed. Do you think that there was a fight up here? Hinata asked. Impossible, the room is in perfect condition. The most likely explanation is that the kunai has fallen and Jade hasn't noticed when he left, and by judging by the quantity of dust on it, the weapon has been here for some time. Everyone, spread out and search for possible clues. We'll meet again in a few hours. Hi Hokage-sama. The six of them nodded to each other and soon the room was empty. 2 hours later, Itachi and Naruto have stopped in a bar. The group except Minato had divided itself in 3 two-person teams, and having a duojutsu user in each of them upped their chances of finding information about Jade. The duo were presently sitting on the bar when in front of them were placed 2 drinks. Both of them looked up and saw the barman. Here on the house, said the man. But why? Asked Naruto. You two are ninjas, aren't you? Yes, Itachi answered cautiously. Then I have something to tell you. Our village was plagued by strange disappearances about 3 months ago around the time of the new moon. 2 weeks ago I had a ninja here. How did you know he was a ninja? Naruto asked. Originally, I was from Kumo, however I didn't manage to pass my genin exam, however I still can sense when a henge was used. So as I said, I had a ninja here 2 weeks ago. I don't know from which village was he, however, or how he really looked. Why? Because of the henge, he looked like a 6-foot-tall man with brown hair and brown eyes, however I don't have a clue about his real appearance. What I know is that I mentioned the disappearances and that the same night was the new moon. As nobody went missing, I believe that the ninja took care of the problem as no one went missing. Where those disappearances took place? Naruto asked. Around the forest. Thank you for the information, Itachi said. No problem, hope that my information will help you. The barman looked at them and went to serve his other clients. Few other hours. Itachi and Naruto met with the others soon after. By their solemn faces it looked like no one else had information about their missing family members. Minato looked at them. Any news about Jade? No, not at all, the 4 others stated. Yes, Itachi and Naruto said. What? Mia asked. 3 months ago there were some disappearances, about 1 person a month around the new moon. The barman told us that about 2 weeks ago a hanged ninja passed through, and the same night nobody disappeared. It was the night of the new moon, by the way. How do you know that it was a ninja? Rui asked. The barman was a ninja from Kumo that didn't pass his genin exams. Knew how to recognize a henge but not much else. The henge that the user used was of a 6-foot-tall brown-haired and brown-eyed man. We don't know if it was Jade, but you said that his last known location was in the land of sea and we don't have any news about him for 2 weeks. And you suspect that the ninja was Jade and he was the last person to disappear 2 weeks ago, Minato finished. Do we know where these disappearances took place? Mia asked. Around the forest, Naruto informed them. So we go to the forest, Minato said. Understood. The edge of the forest. The 7 of them stopped in front of the forest and wondered what to do as any information about Jade would have disappeared. Naruto looked at them and smiled. I have an idea, the young Chunin stated and walked in front of everybody. The 6 of them watched as Naruto did the summoning signs and in front of him appeared a beautiful cat the size of German Shepherd. The cat had leaves on his legs and his tail. Naruto, what is that? Minato asked. Elemental cats, pretty cool summon. Flora here would be able to see what happened in the forest 2 weeks ago. Flora, you are up. The cat looked at his summoner, then at the forest. Soon the leaves started to dance and a scene formed in front of the ninjas. They saw a person who they recognized as Jade walking in the forest, then dodging a kunai that led him in a wire trap. Then another person appeared in the scene and put something over the boy's mouth. The scene then changed and the group saw the second person taking a syringe and jamming it in the boy's neck. The scene dissolved, however the leaves didn't fall down but started dancing around Flora. Naruto, this was amazing, Hinata said, awed. Now we know what has happened, but where the leaves are leading us? Rui asked. Toward the coast, Minato answered. Then let's go. The group followed Flora and the elemental cat led them to the edge of the water where she stopped before looking at his summoner. Why has she stopped? Sasuke asked. Water is not her domain. She can help in the forest, but not outside it. This is the nature of the elemental cat. Thank you, Flora. You did an amazing job. The forest cat nodded and left the group. Now what? Itachi asked. Now, it's Aqua turn, Naruto answered the Uchiha. Very soon in Flora place stood another cat, its size being the same as Flora. This cat was the color of water with 4 fins on each of its legs. On its spine there was a fin that went from its neck to its tail. The tail itself separated in 2 fins at the end. The whole body of the summon was built for life in the water. How may I be of service, Naruto? The summon asked. We are searching for my brother. Thanks to Flora we know that he was in the forest, however his tracks finish at the water's edge. Anything else I should know? Aqua asked. Jade was searching for a possible enemy lair. When we lost touch with him, Minato answered the cat. I'll keep this in mind. Hokage-sama. Aqua, thank you and be careful out there. Naruto looked at his summon. The cat nodded to him and jumped in the water, her coat blending in perfectly and making her vanish. Now what? Sasuke asked. Now we wait. 20 minutes later Aqua reappeared and Minato jumped to meet her, followed by the others. Aqua jumped out of the water and turned to the Hokage. In the far side rock formation there is a hidden entrance to a cave. The entrance can be seen only from the water. It is impossible to be seen from here, where you are standing. I can lead you to it, but what is beyond I cannot say. Thank you, Aqua, let's go, Minato said. The 7-person team followed the elemental cat and soon with Aqua help they were at the entrance. To the group's surprise, next to Aqua, Flora reappeared with a bigger, more muscular cat beside her. This time the animal was brown with moss patches on his back. Titan, what are you doing here? Flora told me about Jade and I decided to lend my help as this in fact is a cave, so who better to lead you than an earth elemental, the cat answered. Thank you guys. At that the cats nodded and the 3 of them started walking in front of the group. After an hour of walking the group finally saw light coming from ahead and stopped. With just a sign everybody took some weapons and slowly continued forward. Soon they arrived at a fork in the tunnel and the group separated. Minato, Itachi, Sasuke and Naruto took the left, while Mia, Rui and Hinata took the right. The 3 summons also separated with Flora going to the right and Titan and Aqua going to the left. With Mia group finally arrived at a door at the end of the tunnel. The trio looked at each other, and held securely their weapons before silently opened the door and found themselves in a laboratory. Hinata turned toward the older teens and lowly asked, "What is this place?" "Some kind of research station probably," Mia answered the girl. "I smell blood, pain and there is an old snake smell," Flora said to the ninja horror. "What do you mean?" Rui asked. "Someone has been killed here and more than once." "Let's separate," Mia commanded Rui. "Try to find traces of the researchers." Hinata put in storage scrolls every and all documents that you see. In here there should be a journal or something that explain all this. Do you think this was the lair that Jade was searching for? I don't know, but it's possible. Now let's start and maybe in all the documents here will be something that will help us to find Jade. Rui and Hinata looked at each other and separated in order to accomplish their tasks. Flora with her enhanced sense of smell started helping Rui with his task. While they were doing that Mia found what looked like a log journal and started to read through it. The more and more she read the more horrified she was. "Mia, are you alright?" Hinata asked. "This book speaks about a formulation of some kind of potion that changes the sex of the person who drinks it permanently." "Changes the sex?" Hinata asked. "Yes, as men become women, and women men." "But, why? What is the purpose of that potion?" "I don't know. Hopefully, if we find the researchers, they will tell us more after a careful interrogation, of course. Don't count on that. Girls, me and Flora have found the only researcher in this place and he is dead." Mia continued reading the journal. "Hinata, come and help me." Hinata followed the voice and soon she found Rui and Flora. They were in a small side room that was clearly an office and on one of the chairs there was a corpse of a man. Without being told, she activated her Byakugan and started looking for clues about the researcher death. "In his feet there is a sword, Rui-sensei," the girl said, and Rui slowly approached the corpse and kneeled next to the weapon. His breath stilled as he recognized its hilt. Panicked he said to Hinata, "Look for any more weapons and even clothes." "Okay, but why? Is everything okay?" "This is Jade's sword. Don't touch the blade as it is drenched in basilisk venom." "I see a small cut on the corpse," Sensei Hinata said, and indeed on the corpse's hand there was a wound. Suddenly the 3 of them heard Mia screaming and as one they ran into the laboratory and stopped as they saw Mia horrified eyes and the journal on the floor. Rui gently crouched and took the journal before closing it, and then Mia looked at him and said, "There were human experiments here. They started 3 months ago. The lone researcher kidnapped and drugged people. He called them test subjects. All his prisoners died during the transformation process. He was ecstatic that he finally had captured a ninja and had administered successfully the potion." Rui, Hinata, this person description corresponds to Jade. "We know," Rui said to Mia. "Let's go and find the others. There is nothing that we can learn anymore from here. We have all the papers and we have Jade weapons and clothes," Hinata told Mia. "His weapons and clothes?" "Yes, there were in the side room. It's an office with the corpse of a researcher there." "That man is dead. How did he die?" "He cut himself with Jade basilisk sword." "So he died painful. That is good," Mia finished darkly. "Let's go." Rui helped Mia and soon the 4 of them left the laboratory in search of their team members while in the same time dreading what they were going to find at the end of the left tunnel. With Minato group, Minato was following Aqua and Titan. The 2 cats were in front of his group and they were advancing very slowly in the tunnel while dreading what they were going to find at the end of it. Soon a wooden door stood in their way. A well-placed Rasengan courtesy of Naruto took care of it and the group of 6 found themselves in what was a dungeons. 3 of the 6 cages were occupied, and to the horror of everyone in the first 2 cages stood the remnants of humanoid figures. Neither of the men could tell if the poor souls were once men or women. The cats however had continued to the last cage and with a growl have stoked in front of it. Itachi was the first to arrive in front of it and stoked shocked. Inside there was a woman. With one strong push Titan broke the door of her cell and Itachi entered the cell followed by Minato. Naruto and Sasuke turned their back on their family and with heightened senses started to watch their surrounding for any possible treat. The Sharingan blazed in the brothers' eyes and due to their fury it has morphed to the more dangerous Mandako. Minato very slowly kneeled in front of the woman and started talking to her. He didn't know if the woman was even conscious due to her state. She was naked with her hands, feet and neck shackled with heavy chains. Her body fat was non-existent and each of her ribs could be counted. Minato took from his kit 2 metal files and very gently used them to unlock the chains. Itachi's eyes widened as he looked at the extremities of the prisoner, as the white of her bones could be seen on her hands. Her eyes were semi-opened and Itachi swore that he recognized the Mandako Sharingan in them. The woman however was unresponsive to them. Look, Itachi said to Minato, on her right shoulder there is an Anbu tattoo. That is Konoha Anbu tattoo, Minato stated. However, I don't remember a woman in our forces with her description. This is because, until a few weeks ago, she was a he. A new voice was heard and everybody saw Rui with the girls. Mia and Hinata stooped horrified in their tracks as they saw the girl. The two of them could not believe what they were seeing. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. This is what is left of Orochimaru lair. Apparently he had people doing research for him and they were working on a permanent potion to change the genre of their prisoners. For what purpose we don't know, however what we know is that this lair had one researcher left, who is now dead. He kidnapped people for his sick experiments and treated them like test subjects. His first 2 experiments to change the sex of his victims were unsuccessful as they unfortunately died. This was until 2 weeks ago when he managed to capture a Konoha ninja and gave him the potion and this time the experiment was successful. Mia finished with her explanation and Minato group looked thunderstruck at the woman as what Mia told them finally hit home. The one laying between them in the cell was Jade. She needs a doctor, Naruto stated, but stopped as he saw Aqua and Flora moving toward Jade. Everybody watched with awe the elemental cars working. Aqua had summoned a water bubble and very gently guided it until Jade's whole body was clean of the dirt and grime. Then Flora stepped in and in the cage medicinal plants started growing. She guided the plants around her wounds and very gently each and every one of them covered every single wound that Jade had and were fastened with vines. Their job done, the 3 cats disappeared to their home. Minato took off his Hokage cape and very gently covered Jade with it, before with a nod to the others disappearing from the cage returning back to Konoha. Soon he was followed by Mia and Rui who took Sasuke and Hinata with them before returning for Itachi and Naruto. Soon all the family assembled in the hospital waiting area, waiting for news about Jade who was being operated on by Tsunade. Kushina was indeed pleased when she heard the news and soon she could only think about any future babies the two of them would have to the horror of the newly engaged couple. One another thing that was making Itachi worried was the fact that Minato was not only his friend and Hokage but in fact the father of the girl he wanted to marry. To his immense surprise, Minato gave his permission right away and in fact told him that he was the best man he could think of for Jade. However, Itachi wasn't finished as after passing Minato he had to receive the approval of Rui and Mia, and pregnant and hormonal Mia was an unpredictable opponent. Fortunately for him, both of them wanted Jade happiness after all she had lived through and gave it right away. Now there were only 2 people left to tell and these 2 opinion would count the most, Naruto and Sasuke. Fortunately for both of them, their brothers were delighted and congratulated them as soon as they heard the news. The following 4 days were spent in searching for the perfect house and after numerous places showed to them by a very eager realtor they found the perfect place. The house was unfortunately in disrepair but they weren't scared of the work as they had lots of friends in the Anbu including Tenzo, a ninja with the Shodai Mokuden bloodline limit. Soon many ninjas could be seen on their new plot of land. The old house was tore down and Tenzo under the careful directions of Jade erected the new. It took a lot of chakra to construct the perfect house according to his friend's visions. Tenzo worked slowly and meticulously and in a week Itachi and Jade had not only a house, but a training dojo and a shelter for the ninjas when they came to visit, as well as Naga and Flare having their personal unique resting spots. The finished house was a little bigger than imagined as Tenzo has added a huge living room and few more guest rooms including a personal rooms for Sasuke and Naruto when the 2 boys stayed in the house, and another family-sized room for Mia and Draco with a nursery attached to it when the couple was going to stay. In fact their room was a mirror image to the master suit. The time to their wedding was coming closer and closer as well as the impending birth of Mia and Rui children. It has been a huge discovery for the doctors and a surprise for their parents as the couple had prepared themselves for 1 baby and not 2. Mia still didn't know how a baby could have been missed until Hinata proposed that maybe the twins' hearts were so in sync that it had appeared as if only 1 baby was present. This explanation was accepted to Rui's relief as he knew that his wife was like dog with a bone when something puzzled her. Finally the wedding was days away when Jade started feeling under the weather. She was feeling faint and few days ago she had thrown up in the morning. Worried, she had gone to Tsunade and the Sannin had told her the reason, thus resulting in Jade fainting and being revived by her. She swore the Sannin to secrecy as she knew that if Kushina knew then everybody was going to know soon after. She wanted to concentrate on the wedding first before telling Itachi she was 2 months along. The day of the wedding came. Everyone was exited, however Mia was feeling bad all day, her back constantly hurt and she has having cramps, however she decided that this was due to the stress of the day and didn't think about her, looked behind Itachi and frowned. Where was Draco? She could see Minato next to Itachi. Behind the Uchiha stood Sasuke, Naruto, Shishu and Kakashi. Sasuke was chosen as his brother best man and his best friend from the Uchiha clan was in the wedding party. Her eyes roamed around and saw Makoto and Fugaku in the present guests. Itachi and Sasuke may not live in the Uchiha district and being disowned as heirs to the clan, however they were still Itachi parents and he still wanted to share his day with them. Finally the wedding march commenced and the answer of the absence of Draco was explained. He was the one to give Jade away. Everyone was in awe of her wedding kimono. Jade kimono was a Iro Ikikaki type kimono. The base color was a variety of red, making it like she was wearing a living flame, with green and black back was embroidered with 4 animals. In the middle forming a yin-yang symbol were Yuki and Shadow and surrounding them were Flame and Naga. The animals were surrounded by smoke. At the base of the smoke was the Uchiha clan fan and a fire. Draco smiled as he gave Jade to Itachi, knowing that his best friend was finally happy and returned to his place behind Sasuke. Minato smiled as he looked at his children and smiled, thanking the day when Jade, Mia and Rui came into their lives. Just as the wedding vows were read and Itachi kissed his wife, Mia gasped. Everyone looked at her and at the wet ground beneath here. Kushina and Tsunade stood up from their places and stood by Mia, who was holding up tears from the pain. It took only one look for Tsunade and she took Mia to the hospital, Kushina following with Rui. Few hours later, Narcissa and Severus made their appearance. Itachi and Jade became godparents to Severus and Kakashi, and weirdly enough Anko to Narcissa, as in Mia words, who better to teach her daughter to kick ass and not be an useless fangirl. Jade looked at Itachi and smiled as she saw him with Severus and thinking of her gift for him. Hidden in her closet was a box, inside there was a baby onesie and a shirt. On the shirt it was saying I love my cub and on the onesie I am the cub. Finally, the long day and night was over and the newlyweds were in their house. The day was exiting for sure, first with the wedding and then with the arrival of Severus and Narcissa. There was something else that Jade had sensed in the aura of the babies. As the mistress of death she could sense auras, and she has sensed in the 2 new Malfoy the actual aura of Draco Mother and Severus Snape. Eventful day, Itachi smiled. Yes, however, it was amazing, Jade smiled. You look amazing, Itachi looked at her in her kimono. Thank you, however, the day isn't over yet, Jade smiled and brought another gift. What is it? A gift for you, open it. Itachi took the box very gently from his wife and slowly opened it. Inside he saw the baby onesie and the shirt. He gently unfolded them and then looked at Jade. You are -2 months. I have been feeling weird, and thinking that it was wedding nerves. I went to Tsunade last week and she confirmed it. We are going to be parents in 7 months. Jade, this is the best present of the day. Thank you. I am so glad that you are happy. I was worried about your reaction a little bit, to tell the truth. Why? Well, we have not talked of starting a family so soon. And Jade, it is fantastic news. I have promised myself that I let the decision to you. Good, as I am feeling ready to having this child or children with you. Thank you for this wonderful gift, my jewel, Itachi said. Jade smiled as she gently disrobed, and both of them spent the night gently exploring each other's bodies before being lost in a fiery passion. 5 days later, Itachi smiled as he saw his wife in her summer clothing. Minato has given their new family few days for their honeymoon and the new couple had chosen the land of the sea. Before departing, Minato and Jade had exchanged their Hiraishin kunai in case either he or they were needed. Jade approached him and gently kissed him before disrobing and showing her new bathing suit to him. Itachi looked in admiration of how the suit hugged his wife's body and he could even see the beginning of the small baby bun. Jade smiled at him and she took his hand before leading him in the water. Soon their passion reignited and they let themselves go. Few days later their honeymoon ended and both of them returned to Konoha when both of them were swept in the chaos of the village life. The news they arrived at weren't good, as the Akatsuki had made their move 3 years earlier than expected with the kidnapping of Gaara, the holder of the one-tailed beast. Minato looked at each of his jonin and said, "We know, thanks to Jiraiya. How are they operating in grouping? Tsunade is the prime medical specialist in the village. I want you to go after Sasori, he is the poison specialist of the group. Rui, I know that you are a new father, but we really need everyone that we can spare, so I believe that Deidara will not be much a trouble for you. Kakashi and I will go after Kisame of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist." Kakashi nodded to him now about the so-called immortal duo. "I and Itachi will go after them." Jade stepped forward. "We have studied them. Itachi can trap Kakuzi in his Tsukiyomi and kill him. His 5 hearts won't save him." 5 hearts, the Jonins in the meeting hall stated, anguished. Yes, Kakuzi is very old, he had fought the first Hokage, he can use the 5 basic ninja natures due to his habit of collecting nature hearts of his defeated ninjas, Mia stated. Mia, Minato started, I am not going with you, I have other priorities, however, I can share my knowledge of the so-called immortal duo. The perfect opponent for Kakuzi is literally Itachi, as he can trap him in his jutsu and kill him without Kakuzi doing anything. Now Hidan is a follower of Jashin Jade. Finished. What make him dangerous is that he only need to scratch his opponent, make a circle, become black with skeletal marks, ingest his opponent blood, even a drop is enough, and stab. Ingesting the blood he forms a bond with his opponent, and by stabbing himself, in the liver or lung, he can continue fighting, but the wounds is transferred to his opponent due to the bond. So how are you, Jade, going to counter that? Asked Shikaku. Everyone knows what Naga and Flame or Jade started. What is unknown to most of you is that before we came to Konoha I fought a snake such as Naga and it bit me. Its poison entered my body and the only thing that kept me from dead was the intervention of a bird such as Flare, that cried in my wound. This however left me with an ability in my blood. And this is, Inoichi asked. My body has adapted, I have constant flow of phoenix tears and basilisk blood in my veins, and I can choose how my blood can flow. For example, if I need to give blood, only pure blood with phoenix tears will pass to the one receiving the blood. This combination also makes me immune to all natural venoms and weaker if I am injected by a synthetic one. When it comes to Hidan, I need to overflow my body with basilisk venom, he needs to cut me and lick the blood. The potency of the venom will kill him pretty quick, even if he manages to stab me before he dies, the phoenix tears in my blood will start the healing process right away. This ability will pass to any and all children that I will have. She finished while looking at Itachi. Thanks for explaining to us, Jade, this really makes you the best person for Hidan. Shukaku said. Anything else that somebody want to add? Yes, this will be my last mission that I can actively participate in, Jade announced. I can work in the information and cryptography desks and in the mission desks, but not outside of the village. For how long? Minato asked. For at least 2 years, Hokage-sama, maybe more. 2, Minato started. Then his eyes widened. I see, then congratulations to both of you. He looked at her worriedly. Are you sure that you must confront Hidan then? Don't worry, Itachi as well as Yuki, Shade, Naga and Flare will be with me, I will not take any unnecessary risks. Jade finished with steel in her eyes, before excusing herself and exiting with Mia. What was that about? Inoichi asked. So you know, Tsunade asked Itachi, and he nodded before turning to the other Jonins in their rooms. In 6.5 months we will be parents to at least one child, the Uchiha explained with a smile. As I said, congratulations, Itachi, however, everyone, please let congratulate Itachi for his future fatherhood, after Jade tells Kushina. Please. Scared of your wife? Minato. Shukaku smiled. Yes, especially, if she learns the news after the village, the Hokage explained to the laugh of most of the Jonin. Still Itachi. If Jade blood takes too long to down Hidan, Naga will strike him and pump him with his venom. She also will take off her protective lids and Hidan should be dead even before the venom starts working. Meanwhile Flare will give her a vial with his tears inside and she will drink them, to boost her healing power. What about Yuki and Shade? Kakashi asked. They will help me. If by a skim chance the Tsukiyomi fails, they will attack Kakuzi extra hearts and kill him as many times as needed. Will that be enough? After all, even big they are leopards, Inoichi stated. Believe me, they are not ordinary leopards. I have personally seen Shade as a cub attach a 3-inch steel door with his claws. The claws passed through that door like hot knife through butter and then rip Orochimaru's hand with its teeth like it wasn't made of bone but of cotton. Minato shuddered at the memory. When was that? A Jonin asked. Jade, Mia and Rui had just arrived in Konoha a little after the Kyuubi attack. Jade was in fact in the hospital with chakra exhaustion when he was kidnapped by Orochimaru. I remember that. The village was at high alert and every available Jonin was searching for him at the time, Choza stated. Yes, if Shade could do that as a cub, I don't want to imagine the damage he can do now. Minato looked at Itachi. With only the claws. Devastating wounds. Itachi looked at everybody. If the teeth are added to the mix. Catastrophic, and this is only Shade. If we add Yuki to the mix. Itachi shuddered. So don't worry, we will be well protected. 2 weeks later. Hidan and Kakuzi could not believe how bad their luck has turned. When the immortal Akatsuki duo was intercepted by Itachi Uchiha and his partner Jade, Kakuzi has been ecstatic as both of them were worth a lot of money in the bingo book. Then both of them had separated and started attacking the duo. Itachi had concentrated on Kakuzi and Jade on Hidan. Kakuzi has found himself in Tsukiyomi pretty fast, and when he had managed to escape the nightmare world, Itachi had managed to kill him a total of 3 times. Now on both sides of the Uchiha stood the biggest ass leopards that the immortal has seen. The cats jumped with speed that was impossible for their large size, and the last thing that Kakuzi felt was the teeth of the cats sinking in his chest and hearts. The light left his eyes forever as he took his last breath. Hidan was cackling like mad when he saw the beautiful girl that he was going to sacrifice to his god. The Jushinist has managed to cut her and ingest her blood, however this is when things went wrong for him. The moment her blood hit his tongue he felt a strong burning. His eyes widened when his veins started to become black as he was not started the ritual yet. His breathing became labored and harder and soon his vision started to gray. His diminished vision saw a movement and his fading eyes widened as he noticed the biggest snake he had seen next to the girl. The last thing that he felt was the fangs of the snake sinking in his blackened flesh and the light left his eyes forever. Minato looked at both his ninjas when they entered his office and left 2 scrolls on the desk. Jade and Itachi nodded at him before smiling and he knew that the immortal duo of Akatsuki was no more. It has been 2 months since the actions against the Akatsuki has begun. The Konoha ninja had various success, some like Jiraiya had lost their lives taking on the leader of the Akatsuki and now Tsunade was the last of the Sannin. Her fight against Sasori had been brutal, however, she has proven to be too much for the poison specialist of the group and he and his puppets hadn't stood a chance. Deidara's fate was similar. He had tried to kill Rui however he hadn't succeeded as the blonde son of the Hokage was well protected and his reputation was well founded. His mastery over water was second only to the second Hokage and his snakes were deadly. Another plus was the fact that Naga was with him and the snake had watched him carefully and the moment that Deidara had tried to form his bombs it was all over for him as one look at the snake and he was dead. Kisame as one of the strongest of the Akatsuki members had given a good fight to Minato and Kakashi. As one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist he had huge capacity of chakra and his sword Samaheda had the nasty ability to steal his opponent's chakra. Kakashi had succumbed to chakra exhaustion trying to hit him with multiple Chidori however that had weakened enough the Akatsuki member so Minato could finish him. The 4th Hokage had once again proven why he was one of the most feared ninjas in the elemental countries and that the fact that he was staying more in the village hadn't diminished his battle prowess. Kisame hadn't stood a chance in his weakened state from Kakashi and one well-placed Rasengan had finished another of the infamous swordsmen and his body and sword were sealed in scrolls. Konoha. The higher-up ninja, Jonin and Anbu were once again in the Hokage office. Among them was the 6 months pregnant Jade as well as Mia who has gone to strategy and cryptography during the time she was in the village. She may not be an active ninja right now, but her intellect and research skills were huge assets to these departments. Now both women stood in a corner of the room with Jiraiya's final message and of all things his final Ika work. How many of the Akatsuki are left? Minato asked. We don't know the real number, Inoichi said. At least 2 Maya suddenly said. How do you know that, Mia? Asuma asked. By this Jade approached Minato and gave him Jiraiya's message. The real one is not among them. Minato looked at his pregnant daughter. What does that mean? A random Junin asked. That Jiraiya has fought in essence puppets Maya explained. And we know that. The Akatsuki are moving in teams of 2 Jade finished. However, we believe that there is at most 1 more. Maya looked at Minato. Why do you think that? The Hokage asked. By doing research, and looking at the rumored tailed beasts' locations Maya explained. We know that there is often some kind of relationship between the cage of the village and the tailed beasts' container. So we focused on that. With the aid of my snake summons, we figured that there was practically no change between the relationships between the cage and the container. Then we found out something interesting. The only cage that is also a tailed beast container was the 3rd Mizukage. Jade explained. The 3rd, wasn't he the one that started the blood purges in Mist and Anbu asked. Yes, and that seemed strange to us. The 2 girls looked at each other. And why is that? Minato asked them. Well, the 3rd Mizukage was new in rule, his people loved him and he respected all of his ninjas. Including the ones, with a bloodline limit. Yes, however suddenly his attitude changed. Maya said to the room. Something happened to him which turned him from a nice ruler to one which was despised, Jade explained to the room. We looked at the tailed beast in him then. While powerful, it was only the 3-tailed beast and someone with a strong mind should not have had a problem with the communication between him as a host and his tenant. Maya explained. Naruto, as a genin managed to find a balance with the Kyuubi and he is a genin. Yes, a strong genin, however he still has a long way to grow until he reaches his full capabilities, Itachi said to the room. So what happened? Kakashi asked and everyone saw that the girls looked at each other uneasily. We dug deeper, Mia said. And we found a possible answer in the history of Konoha. Jade finished. In Konoha history? Minato asked. Yes, we looked at the Kyuubi, Minato and its history of containers. His history of containers? Asked Anko. Yes, the only ninjas that could safely hold such an immense amount of chakra as adults were Uzumaki or born half Uzumaki. So that is why, a Jonin started but stopped what he was about to say when he saw his Hokage face. Our research brought us further, Mia stated, and we looked at the history of Konoha founding clans. The Uchiha and the Senji Fugaku filled up the room. Yes, and especially we looked at a particular Uchiha. Who? And Anbu asked. You looked at Madara didn't you? Fugaku asked. Yes. Care to fill us up? Asuma asked. You see, Madara Uchiha was one of the two sons of the Uchiha clan head Fugaku said. For a time the Senji and the Uchiha fought each other until a truce was made and Konoha was founded. Madara at the time was good friends with the man who would be chosen to become the first Hokage, however he considered himself stronger than him and went into jealous rage when he was passed over as leader of the newly founded Konoha. He vowed revenge and left the clan in the village. Many years passed and one day he returned and he brought the Kyuubi with him and attacked the village. So the appearance of the Kyuubi 14 years ago wasn't the first time, asked Kurenai. No, this is something that mainly the Hokage knows. The Kyuubi was since a little after the founding of Konoha in the village. Now a good allies of the Senji was the Uzumaki clan, and that alliance solidified itself with the marriage of the Shodai with Mito Uzumaki. Mito is an Uzumaki and a seal mistress used her considerable knowledge to seal the Kyuubi in her. When her time was closing in to join the Shodai in death, the next Uzumaki was brought up to take her burden, Minato explained. Kushina-sama Kakashi murmured and Minato nodded. Yes, the seal of a female container is at its weakest when she is giving birth, Minato continued. We guarded the location of the birth pretty secure, however an enemy knew. I don't know who he was, but he managed to kill the Anbu that were guarding us, including the wife of the third. What I know is that he called himself Madara, but that was impossible. Minato stalled. Fugaku protests. This man was way too young, wore a mask, was dressed in cloth with red clouds and a Sharingan was visible. I do not believe that he was affiliated with the Uchiha clan in Konoha. Minato continued to Fugaku happiness, however he had the Sharingan, but only in one eye, which does not make him a confirmed Uchiha as proved by Kakashi, however this notion wasn't to be discarded. Few days after the attack I looked at the list of the killed and missing Uchiha in the Third War and few bodies were never recovered. At that Fugaku nodded. Thank you for filling us in. Minato Jade voice was heard again and everybody turned toward the girls again. Now, with some let's say creatively obtained copies of past documents of the Third Musukage, we discovered that a little before the Blood Wars in Mist started, a man dressed in a cloak with red clouds and a mask visited the Mizukage. Mia continue. So you girls think that this same man put the Third Mizukage under the Sharingan control? Fugaku asked. We don't know, however by logical process, the villages protects the guardians of the tailed beasts very good. Before that person visit, the third should have been a popular ninjas to be chosen to take the highest office at such a young age. Minato nodded. So after that visit something changed and the wars and rebellion started and the loyalty toward the third all but vanished. It should be pretty easy to capture a container if he or she is forsaken by the village. So we have someone of possible Uchiha descend with the Akatsuki, that it is strong enough to go toe-to-toe with you Minato and to possibly put a cage under control and start a war. Shukaku finished. Yes, Maya confirmed. So what are we to do? Inoichi asked, to the horror of everybody. In the village of Amikagir, stood 3 people. These were all that was left of the mighty organization known as Akatsuki. The small group, practically a standard ninja team, was composed of 2 men and a woman. Each of the men was wielder of a Duojutsu, the feared Sharingan and the rarer Rinnegan. The 3 of them were looking over a map of the elemental nations and more specifically at one village, Konoha. That village alone was responsible for the decimation of most of their organization. Yes, they had taken losses, however from the whole group only Konan, Nagato and Tobi, the masked Uchiha, were left. Not long ago they were 4, however the group had lost Zetsu, their only spy, at the hands of Itachi Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha. Tobi had known that the 2 brothers were outcasts of the Uchiha clan and for a time he had toyed with the idea of recruiting them, however this was quick abandoned as the brothers were loyal to the village. Then his gaze had turned to the Uchiha clan as a whole and to his displeasure he had found that the clan was still well respected in the village and nobody though that they had a hand in the Kyuubi escape 14 years ago. Tobi closed his eyes and though about his goal of collecting the tailed beasts to execute the ultimate genjutsu, the Moon Eye plan. This goal was now impossible thanks to the efforts of Naruto Uzumaki as he had managed to form some kind of connection with the fox according to Zetsu's last report and he was no longer a container. Yes, he had managed to collect the one-tailed and the 3-tailed, but the stupid Hokage had shared their plans with the other villages for the tailed beasts containers and now each and every one of them were well guarded. Yes, they still did missions outside of the village, however it was impossible to kidnap them with the number the Akatsuki had left. They were only 3 after all and it was too much on Nagato's system to operate all the bodies so far away from AIM where even the rain was saturated with the Rinnegan user chakra. He looked once again at Konoha village and smiled. He knew how to destabilize the village and he had chosen the perfect person. He took a picture and a kunai and nailed it on the wall. The target chosen, the 3 of them started planning. Konoha 3 weeks later. Jade was feeling with each day more and more uncomfortable. According to Tsunade's scans she was bigger than expected, which was curious as the Sannin could only hear 1 heartbeat on the monitor. Jade had of course her suspicions, however one thing that she missed from her old world was the magic and one handy spell that many Metawitches knew. Of course when she was in her old world she was a boy and Hermione had other things to look for and not that particular spell that told a woman how many babies she was carrying. As she woke up today, she felt an unease grab her. Not long ago Itachi and Rui had left with Minato for a cage summit and Kakashi and Team 7 were on a reconnaissance mission with the other rookies and their sensei. She had been on edge all week as all the strongest ninjas of the village were gone and the Akatsuki or what was left of them were far too quiet. This morning she left the house followed by Shade. Her loyal familiar hasn't left her side since the men has left the village and she was grateful for him as she knew that she was not in her peak condition to defend herself. What she didn't know was that a paper crane was observing her and it flew away the moment it saw her exiting the village. The flight of the crane wasn't long and soon it approached a gigantic tree made of paper. Inside were Nagato and Konan. The crane landed on the violet-haired woman hand and transmitted what she has seen with the chakra storage inside before shredding itself. Konan looked at her partner and nodded. It was showtime. Jade and Shade stopped abruptly their walk in the forest and both became alert. Something wasn't right. The forest was quiet, there were no birds or animals to be heard. Suddenly a kunai with an explosive tag landed next to her feet and she had barely time to jump, before it exploded. She cursed her lack of mobility as she saw other kunai fly her way. Shade saw that she couldn't dodge in time and with one swift movement the ninja put her on his back and ran from the clearing. However his escape was cut short as he was hit from the side. Jade was unable to hold on to her leopard and was ejected from him. She shielded her stomach as she hit the ground and lifted her head to see what had hit them. She saw a giant summoning animal that resembled a rhinoceros, however something was wrong with it. The animal had metal rods sticking out of it and its eyes were violet with circles. She closed her eyes and when she opened them again the eternal Mendoko Sharingan bled into them. She managed to distinguish 7 chakra signatures, however what was unusual that 6 of the signatures were exactly the same. She tried to go to Shade but a huge fire stream separated the two. She looked at the origin and she steeled herself as she saw a huge man with rods in his body and the same strange eyes as the summon. The man wore an Akatsuki cloak and had a long orange hair. Soon another shadow appeared from the undergrowth of the forest. This time a woman and she had exactly the same accessories as the man. Jade body froze as her mind supplied her with the answer. These two were part of the group of puppets that Jiraiya fought and lost his life to. No, not puppets, reanimated bodies, Jade concluded as she looked at the fluidity of her opponent's movements. She thought about what she had discovered with her M's and made the conclusion that the puppeteer was somewhere close by as were the other 3 bodies. She saw a huge Cerberus appearing and attacking Shade. Right there and there she knew that that body was keeping her familiar occupied and unable to help her. She cursed her luck and started attacking the fire body with all she had. What Jade didn't know was that a small flow of something familiar and unique to her, Mia and Rui, has begun its awakening in her body. Her magic. For now it was there, so small and hidden, but needing something big to awaken fully. Her magic knew that right now Jade was in a fight and concentrated around her womb to protect the life inside. After a long battle with the long-haired corpse, Jade finally managed to kill him once again. Her joy, however, was short-lived as the 3 other corpses appeared from the undergrowth. All of them had these strange eyes and metal rods in their bodies, however only one of them looked like it had more freedom than the other 2. That body was of a tall, short-haired orange man and when it looked at her she shuddered as she saw its eyes. While the other 4 bodies had dead eyes, this one had hidden light and she knew right away that it was different. How she didn't know, but it was like if an echo of the previously living person was still there. It reminded her a little of the Hogwarts ghosts. This body looked like, while it needed to be controlled by its creator, had some kind of decision-making capabilities that the other lacked. Her attention was diverted by one of the 2 other corpses and saw that to her horror, that one of the bodies transformed and took the body that she was destroyed in its mouth. Soon however it regurgitated the body again and this time to her horror, the 5th body once again was able to move. How was she supposed to defeat them? Even Jiraiya, the most versatile of the Sannin, fell to them, and here she was 7 months pregnant fighting with everything she has for her life and the life of her child. She gathered what strength she had and started attacking again. She wasn't going down easily. Not far away from the meadow where was the fight stood Nagato and Konan. The 2 Akatsuki had expected their target to be down by now, but somehow she was still fighting and what was surprising she had managed to kill for a little while one of his paths of pain. Suddenly next to them appeared Tobi. The Uchiha was getting displeased about the length of battle. He had used his considerable skills with the Sharingan to put a silencing barrier around the forest where the girl and her cat were, otherwise all of the Jonin still in the village would be here by now. Mad with the lack of result he moved to the clearing to join the fight. Nagato and Konan looked at each other before the man closed his eyes and gave the order to his paths to get out of there. However something happened that neither of them expected. Blood started falling from both of their mouths and soon they joined Yahiko in death. Tobi, tired of their ineffectiveness, had left a blood clone which used their inattention to kill them using his Mandako Sharingan. Jade was barely holding on. Her opponent right now was the short-haired guy, the others having moved to prevent her escape. She looked at Shade and saw her familiar barely standing. What she failed to see was the iron rod that was thrown by her opponent which struck her longtime companion in the chest. Shade stumbled, his eyes widened and he fell to the ground. Jade gasped as the lifelong bond she had with him went quiet. She could not believe it, her familiar, her companion for more than 20 years was dead. What she didn't know was that her reawakened magic reacted and the moment Shade fell, it put the Nindu in a sort of suspended animation until hopefully help arrived despite how long it was going to take. The downside of that is that the bind went silent in order to preserve Shade energy and life. Jade looked with hate at her opponent and pulled every ounce of chakra that she had into her attack and managed to down the sentinel puppet. She expected that he will get up once again, but to her surprise the other 4 corpses suddenly felt and didn't move. That scared her. She knew that it wasn't something that she had done as everything she had tried to put them down for good had failed. She closed her eyes and tried to find all the chakra signatures in the surrounding area. To her immense puzzlement she could not find the 2 familiar signatures anymore and knew right away that the puppeteer and his partner were dead. What or who could have killed them? Then she felt another chakra signature and she whimpered. This one was fresh and strong. She opened her tired eyes and saw the masked Akatsuki member. Toby looked at the ground around him and saw the multiple signs of battle, then he looked at his opponent and smirked. I am impressed. He said we never expected for you to hand on for so long, especially in your condition. He gestured toward her pregnant stomach. I know, that if I fell, I will be captured, and I will protect my child until the very end, Jade hissed at him. Oh, you don't believe that you will be killed. If I was to be killed, you could have done that while I was distracted trying to find out why the corpses I was battling fell. Oh, so you knew they were corpses. I am impressed, the masked man stated. I figured. You guessed correctly that I want to capture you, but first it looks like that you have some fight left in you. After he said that, the masked man attacked her. Jade managed to parry him with a dome made of chakra. Toby smiled. Both of them knew that Jade didn't have enough chakra even for the simplest D-rank attack jutsu and he needed only to take his time. Soon even the protection dome disappeared and his opponent fell to the ground. Jade didn't have any strength left and with fear watched how the masked man approached her. She left her Ms activated because she wasn't going to let herself be captured easily. Then something that neither of them expected happened. As Toby was about to capture his target, a white shield appeared between them. He right away looked for the chakra, but to his immense surprise the shield wasn't made of chakra but of some unknown energy. Then to his puzzlement ethereal figures appeared between them. The figures were of 3 men and a woman. He tried to attack them, however his attacks didn't do nothing against the shield. He watched as the woman who had red hair and one of the man with short black hair and glasses kneeled next to the fallen body of his prey and touched her. Jade looked mesmerized at the figures of her parents as well as that of Sirius and Remus. She didn't know how it was possible, but nevertheless she was grateful to them. Hey baby girl, her father said. Jade, listen to us very carefully, her mother said, and she nodded. Your magic is starting to wake up and it is going to be your secondary defense if your chakra is exhausted. We don't have a lot of time, Bambi, we can give you the power for only one spell to do. You know which one to use, Sunshine Lily said. But how could I use it? Listen to me, honey, if you don't use that spell, that man will get to you and the twins, her mother said. Yes, Riddle used the Avada Kedavra to kill in hate, but you must find the strength to use it in order to protect you and them. Remember, magic is about intent. Her father looked at her. Even some of the lightest spells can take lives and the darkest can be helpful. I understand, thank you. With that Jade smiled and watched how the shield shimmers once again and disappeared. Toby saw the bothersome shield disappear and started to come closer to his target once again when to his surprise Jade got back to her feet. He looked at her eyes and shuddered. The M's had changed color from red and black to black and green. Then to his immense surprise, the pregnant woman managed to move once again and come close to him. Gleeful that she made a mistake, he caught her, but then his target smiled. A green light appeared between them and the last of the Akatsuki died. Jade once again felt that her strength was disappearing. With huge effort she kneeled next to the corpse of her opponent and with effort and trembling fingers she managed to take off the mask. What greeted her was a very scared face and one Sharingan eye. She slowly and painfully managed to get up once again and went to where Shade had fallen. Her tired body heard voices but she was unable to distinguish them. Her only focus being Shade. She managed to do only a step and she felt herself falling, her eyes closing and losing consciousness right away. She didn't even felt the hands that caught her and prevented her fall. Konoha a couple of hours earlier. The guards on the door were getting worried. Few hours ago Jade and Shade had exited the village to go for a walk and they had not returned. Wondering what to do they saw Fugaku and Hiyashi walking nearby. The 2 guards made a sign to the 2 clan heads and they approached them and listened to the concerns of the guards. Fugaku knew that his daughter-in-law was 7 months pregnant and that neither Itachi or her close family was here. When he heard that she has not checked in he moved right away toward the Uchiha compound to gather some of his clan members, Hiyashi doing the same while stopping in front of the Inuzuka compound. Soon 5 teams of 3 Jonin-level ninjas were in front of the gates. In one of these teams were Fugaku, Hiyashi and Sume. Each team had an Inuzuka, a Hyuga and an Uchiha in order to make their chances of success stronger. With a sign the teams divided and went for the search of Jade. The forest. The team of the 3 clan heads arrived in the forest and soon with her sensitive nose managed to smell the lingering smell of shade and jade. The trio knew that it was on the right track, but soon became nervous as Hiashi sensed a huge barrier that cut out a huge part of the forest. The worst thing was that both jade and shade smell disappeared in the barrier. Fugaku activated his Sharingan and cursed strongly, then turned toward his companions and managed to tell them that it was a barrier made by a strong Sharingan user. At that news the 2 others shuddered as they knew that the Akatsuki had a possible rogue Uchiha. The trio tried to dismantle the barrier, but this proved unsuccessful, even with the help of the 4 other teams that had come to their location. Suddenly after hours of unsuccessful tries the barrier fell and the 15 ninjas entered the area. Soon they noticed signs of a fight and the group led by the trio arrived at a clearing. Fugaku saw Jade and how slowly she was moving toward he could see was shade on the ground. Suddenly he saw her falling and he jumped toward her and arrived just in time to prevent her fall. He slowly put one arm behind her back and the other under her legs and managed to lift her securely. Hiashi approached him and activated his Byakugan and hissed at what he had discovered. Jade chakra was practically non-existent. While the 2 men were looking at Jade, Soon slowly approached the downed shade and saw the iron rod in his chest. She called some of her clan next to the huge leopard and they gently extracted the rod before performing a field surgery to stop the bleeding, before taking him to the Inuzuka Veterinary Hospital. While the clan leaders and the Inuzuka were occupied, the rest of the Hyuga and the Uchiha got busy. The fastest of the Uchiha Jonin returned toward the village to find Tsunade while the others sealed the bodies and documented the scene. Fugaku came closer to the unmasked man and could not believe it as under the mask was the unmistakable face of Obito Uchiha. Fugaku could not believe it. Obito has been in Minato team as a genin and chunin during the Third Shinobi War and was believed to have been killed during a mission to destroy a bridge. What has happened to the boy? How had he survived and what had pushed him in collecting tailed beasts? With a sign another Uchiha sealed its body and gave the scroll to his leader. Fugaku knew that neither he nor Minato would enjoy this. However, this wasn't the time of thinking about Obito but about Jade. The girl was barely breathing and he didn't know in what condition was the child she was carrying. Konoha. Tsunade was waiting for the Jonin that had found Jade in front of the doors of the village and soon she saw Fugaku holding someone coming closer to her. She quickly led him through and followed him to the hospital where she took charge of Jade. To her immense surprise, while having many muscles torn and strained as well as some broken and cracked bones, Jade womb looked intact. However, she knew that Jade body just didn't have the strength anymore to sustain the pregnancy. She cursed her luck and asked one of the nurses to call on Kushina and Mia. "What is it?" Kushina asked when she came into the operation room and she screamed as she saw Jade. From what Fugaku tells me, Jade has attacked by the Akatsuki and by a miracle she was able to beat her attacker. However, her body is too weak to heal itself and sustain the pregnancy. Tsunade said, "I must operate and take out the baby for Jade body to have the strength to heal." Kushina. "But the baby is at only 7 months, will it survive?" While both Kunoichi were discussing Jade and the baby chances, Mia approached her friend and touched her hands. Suddenly she pulled off her hands as if burned and looked at Jade as she felt something long forgotten on her fingers. Jade magic. She gently searched for Jade core and found it. She followed it to her abdomen and noticed that Jade magic gently flowed in it and encircling not one but 2 someones. Right there and there she knew that Jade magic was protecting her children and that they would survive what was to follow. She turned toward the 2 women and said, "The babies are going to be fine. Tsunade, do the operation." "Wait, what?" Kushina asked. "Babies. How do you know?" Tsunade asked. "Because Jade body is helping them to survive the birth. Don't ask me how I know, I just do," Mia said with steel in her eyes. Tsunade nodded and approached her patient. She looked at her nurses and she saw that everyone in the operating room was prepared. She hoped that she was right and she cut. Minato, Itachi and Rui were returning from the cage summit that the Hokage had called. The subject of the discussion was the Akatsuki and what they could do about them. Minato looked at the boys as he saw them smile, each of them thinking about their wives and children, or in Itachi's case unborn children. At long last the trio saw the gates of Konoha and approached. Suddenly they felt the defensive barrier that Mia and Rui had installed with their runes knowledge. The barrier was active and on full power. They knew right away what to do and flared their chakra for the barrier to aid them and let them through. As it opened to them, the trio looked uneasily at each other. What has happened in the village? Soon they were beyond the gate and Itachi and Rui noticed that the guards were looking at them fearfully like they had some news but were too scared to tell them. Minato noticed that many of his ninjas were active and even he sensed the number of Anbu to have doubled. Suddenly he heard a commotion behind him and he turned and was greeted by the return of the rookies and their sensei. Naruto saw his father and asked, "Dad, what is going on here? Why the village is at alert?" "I don't know, son. We just arrived ourselves, we haven't even been to the tower yet. Then Minato saw Hiashi and yelled. Hiashi, what is going on? Why the barrier is up? The Akatsuki used that all of you weren't in the village and attacked the Hyuga leader said. When was that? Is anybody hurt? Sasuke asked. 5 days ago, an ambush in the forest, Hiashi answered, praying that they have missed the fact that he hadn't answered. Hiashi, was anybody hurt? Minato asked again. Yes. Are they alive? Hinata asked. Yes, however the survivor of the battle is in a coma. Hiashi thanked his lucky stars that Mia had taught him how to answer, as everything that he said was the true survivor, and the rest Minato was scared to ask. The bodies are well taken care of. Minato. Fugaku appeared suddenly. We are sorry Minato, we weren't fast enough to intercept the 3 of them. 3. They were 3, Itachi asked. Yes, Mia and Jade were correct with their assumption, Hiashi added. Mia, Jade, where are they? Rui asked, and Itachi saw that something passed between the 2 clan heads. Sorry, son, but both of the girls are busy right now, Fugaku answered. Tell me more, Minato ordered. This is not the place. A new voice was heard and Shukaku showed. Let's go to the tower where we will fill you in. At that he started walking, followed by the huge group. Hiashi and Fugaku looked at each other and exhaled. Soon both of them were joined by Sum, who looked at their faces and just said. Nicely played. Yes, but for how long? Any news? Sum asked. She is still in coma. The babies however are doing surprisingly good, both of them are strong, Fugaku answered her. According to one of the nurses from my clan, her chakra levels are climbing slowly but steadily. What about the cat? Hiashi asked. Awake and out of danger, we are keeping him in the hospital to keep the rumors from flying. All the ninjas know not to talk about it since we learned about Minato leaving the consul. Inoichi joined them. However, the civilians are another thing, and that is why we are quiet, boys, Sum stated. In the Hokage office, Minato sat in his office looking at Shukaku and the other clan heads. Not long after he had entered with his entourage, Fugaku, Hiashi and Sum had joined them. Now everybody stood in silence, asking themselves how to present the news to Minato and especially Itachi. So what happened? Minato asked, and surprisingly Sum jumped. 5 days ago one of our ninjas and her ninja's animal went out of the village for an hour or 2. The time passed and she didn't come back. As you were out of the village we had formed few teams composed of an Uchiha, a Hyuga and an Inuzuka for safety. When we patrolled outside of the village, Fugaku jumped in. That makes sense, Minato approved. So as the hours went on, and the ninja didn't return, some of the teams got together and started patrolling. Hiashi jumped in. The teams managed to find the scent of our missing ninja and her companion, however they were stopped by a barrier made by a Sharingan user. Sum looked at Minato as she said it. Sharingan, that means, yes, the Akatsuki. Fugaku confirmed the teams were unable to break the barrier for a time until it fell by itself. Then they entered the area and found a clearing with 6 bodies. Our ninja was barely standing and she lost consciousness even before all except one of our Jonin could get close to her. Fugaku continue. A Hyuga confirmed that she suffered from extreme chakra exhaustion and the Jonin holding her brought her to Tsunade. She managed to operate on her, however as mentioned before she is in coma. Hiashi took on the story. Some of our Inuzuka Jonin took care of her ninja partner. The animal is right now still asleep and weak due to its injuries. While the Inuzuka Jonin were taking care of the animal, 2 teams managed to find another place with 2 bodies in Akatsuki cloak. They sealed all the bodies and turned them into the science division. Shukaku said to Minato. Now, that you know kids what happened, it's time for you to go. Anything else that you need to tell us? Minato asked. Yes, however, this will be very hard to hear, so I want only you and Kakashi to hear it, Fugaku said. As everybody started to exit the room, Fugaku gently pressed a piece of paper into Itachi's hand as he passed before the door closed and only the 3 men were left. Fugaku, what is going on? Minato, I didn't want to tell the identity of the ninja in front of the room. The one hurt is Jade. Minato. At that Minato jumped. What? I must go to her. He started to move around his friend but was stopped. Minato, listen, right now, you don't need to go as I know that Itachi is on his way there. Furthermore, neither he nor you can help her now, and believe me, Itachi will have distraction there. Also, I need to tell you something else. What? We know the identity of the masked Uchiha. Minato. Who? Kakashi asked. Obito. Obito Uchiha. No, I saw him die, Kakashi said. Nobody knows how he survived, but the proof is there, Minato. He had the exact wound pattern that is expected for such an injury. He is missing an eye. I don't know who healed him, however he controlled Akatsuki behind the scenes. For goodness sake, he went after your family when you as a whole were most vulnerable. He almost cost you your life, and Kushina life. He is responsible for the fact that your daughter and my daughter-in-law is in the hospital, and only by some kind of miracle her and Itachi children were protected enough to arrive in excellent condition despite their mother injuries for them to be born healthy and without any problems even if they are 2 months prematures. Wait, Jade gave birth? Minato asked. Tsunade had to do a C-section in order to give Jade body possibility to heal, but yes, she gave birth to 2 girls. Fugaku smiled. With Itachi. Itachi had left the group at the entrance of the Hokage Tower and now he was running toward the hospital. When he entered, he was intercepted by Tsunade apprentice and she led him to the Sannin. How is Jade? She is in a healing coma that I have put her in, to give her body enough time to relax as she was put through a stressful ordeal. Itachi. She looked at him. Jade had to fight 6 Akatsuki members even if 5 of them were puppets and then the masked Uchiha. While she has fighting, she had to think of a way to protect her stomach. How is the child? Tsunade he asked. How is our baby? Itachi, listen to me, I had to do an emergency C-section to help Jade. But our baby is only 7 months, it needs 2 more months. Yes, however, listen to me, your daughters, yes Itachi, you have 2 of them are healthy. She smiled at him. Go see them in the NICU. Itachi looked at her once again and he followed her to the NICU. There he saw Kushina and Makoto. The 2 women each held a small baby girl and was feeding it. Then both women looked up and smiled as they saw Itachi on the NICU door. A nurse dressed the ninja in sterile clothes before letting him enter the room and approach the 2 women and the babies. Hello, Itachi, say hi to your daughters. His mother smiled as she carefully put one of the babies in his arms. Itachi looked at the baby girl mesmerized. Even small, the little girl was perfect. She had all her fingers and toes, her hair was black and she had the baby blue eyes. She started mewling and Itachi looked at his mother and Kushina startled, before he was given one of the baby bottles. Itachi, they are very healthy, Jade and you did very well. No, Jade did very well. She protected them and her, and where was I? At some useless cage summit, he said bitterly. Itachi, don't think that. Makoto told him. Nobody could expected that. Still, after his daughters went to sleep, Itachi left the NICU and followed Kushina to Jade's room. He entered the room and saw her and to his immense relief she was only sleeping. He approached slowly to her and touched her face and to his surprise she turned toward him and he could sense her relax. Smiling he gently sat next to her, took her hand in his and started watching her. An hour later Mia entered her friend's room and smiled as she saw the sleeping Itachi and Jade, who in her sleep has moved as close to him as possible. Jade smiled as she saw Itachi with her 1-month-old daughters. A month ago she has been ambushed by the last of the Akatsuki and her fight has been brutal. She didn't know how she had managed to protect her babies to be safe during the vicious attack, however somehow she had managed that and she has been grateful to Fugaki, Sum and Hiyashi for their help and especially to her father-in-law as he had managed to bring her in time to the hospital for Tsunade to do a C-section and save her children. When she had woken up she had been scared to see her flat stomach, but at this time Kushina and Makoto were in her room. The 2 women had managed to calm her and soon Kushina has left her with Makoto to Jade puzzlement. Not long after that, while the 2 women talked, she had returned followed by Tsunade and Itachi, and 2 bassinets with babies were wheeled in her room by 2 nurses before they left. Jade's eyes zeroed right away on the bassinets, then at Itachi, who nodded and walked to her bed. Makoto left her place and Itachi gently sat on the bed, before he was fiercely hugged by his wife. He sensed her trembling form and he started gently to soothe her and tell her that she and their daughters were fine. As she heard that, Jade's eyes had looked over the 2 bassinets and to the babies inside. With trembling hands she touched her daughters and was rewarded with a soft baby cry. Kushina and Makoto had smiled before taking one of the babies each and giving them to Itachi and Jade. The crying baby had calmed right away when she had felt her mother touch and heat before searching for her food. Soon she was eating under the room watchful eyes, and when she had finished, her sister had taken her place. Jade has been mesmerized of how perfect her children were and how healthy they looked as the stress on the battle has taken its toll on her body, and soon she was nodding off again knowing that she and her daughters were safe under Itachi's watchful gaze. Jade has been home for only a week as Tsunade wanted to make sure that her body has replenished her previous strength and to give time to her daughters to gain the much needed weight as they were born earlier. This time away from home had given the chance to buy and prepare the nursery for a second baby as neither of the parents were expecting to, the girls' hearts being completely in sync as even Tsunade had been fooled despite all her medical knowledge. She had laughed so hard when Kushina, Makoto and Mia had told her how the baby shopping had went, especially the great toy duel as Mia had dubbed Minato and Fugaku efforts to one-up each other for the title of best grandfather. Mia then had proceeded to show her the 4 toys that she and Rui had chosen, and Jade's eyes had teared as she had seen the stag, the wolf, the black dog and a tiger as she had remembered how Sirius and Remus had told her that if her mother had managed to unlock an animagus form it would most certainly being a tiger as her temper was legendary and she had been the only person that could control the marauders if needed. Jade heard the doorbell and she went to answer the door and saw Mia and Rui without their twins. She was about to ask them how were they when her eyes met Mia and saw how serious she was. She let them in and they greeted Itachi before walking toward the kitchen. Itachi looked at Jade as he had also sensed that something was going on and was silently asking if he was needed, however Jade shook her head, with a promise to call him if something was wrong. Reassured, he returned his attention toward the babies. Jade entered the kitchen and saw both of her friends. She sat at the table and looked at them. What is it, Mia? Jade, we believe we know how your babies survived the battle, Rui said. How? Mia jumped. Our magic. But how? Didn't we lose our magic as we came here, Mia? Yes, no, I don't know. What I know is that I felt your magic when you came in the hospital and it was concentrated around your stomach. So can we use it, Mia? Rui asked. No, at least not like before. What do you mean by that? Jade asked. Well, previously all of us have experienced accidental magic, especially in a dangerous situation, and Jade, your situation was not only dangerous but deadly. At that, Jade nodded. Your magic, however, instead of attacking the Akatsuki and boosting your energy, instead protected your stomach and the babies. What if Jade magic had done exactly what was needed? Rui asked. What do you mean? Mia asked. Well, while Jade was fighting, she was worried about how the fight will affect the baby. Her awakening magic concentrated on protecting her womb, and you told me at that. Rui looked at Mia that you believe that the magic somehow safely accelerated the development of the babies for them to be safely born. At that, Jade looked at Mia. So, you think that it was my magic who protected them? Yes, furthermore, I looked at mine and Rui magical core after I looked at yours. And, well, there is something there, maybe not enough to be used as before we came in here, however maybe it is enough to act as secondary defense when our chakras is finished, but this is only a supposition as I don't know how true if at all this theory is in. I don't think it's a good idea to test it. Jade looked at her friends. If we have it as secondary defense, that is great, however if don't, we have lived 15 years without it. I was thinking the same thing. Rui looked at the girls. However, this may lead to another possibility. Ah, and what is it? That our children may develop some kind of magic, as all of us had it and for a time and it was dormant, however since not long ago the magic in our bodies has started to wake up. The chance of our twins developing it is bigger than yours, as both me and Mia carry the gene, however there is the possibility of your twins to unlock it also. Well, if that happens, good. Personally, I think the four of them are too young to think about the possibility if they have magic or not. Jade stated. I will tell Itachi about your suppositions, Mia, and we will both be on the lookout either way. The subject was closed after that, and Jade turned all her attentions on the stories about the new things that Severus and Narcissa were doing. Rui even swore to her that sometimes he could see both his mother and Severus Snape in their mannerisms. Jade smiled when she heard that. As being the mistress of death, she knew in fact that both Snape and Narcissa had reincarnated in Rui children. She was especially keen to see as they grow up, how much like their past Professor Rui's son would grow up to be. After few hours, Mia and Rui left Jade as it was time to relieve Hinata from babysitter duty, as it was close to feeding time for both Severus and Narcissa. As Jade closed the door, Itachi came behind her, having put their twins to bed. He embraced her and asked, "Did you have a good talk with them?" "Yes, thank you, I was presented with one of Mia's theories yet again." She turned toward him. "Oh, what was it this time?" "She believes that mine, hers and Rui magic may be returning in some form or another." "And what do you think, Jade?" "Honestly, Itachi, I don't know what to think. I have come to accept that I may never have my magic back, and for 15 years I have lived with this belief. I won't lie to you and tell you that I haven't missed it some days, however I have gained so much more by taking the chance that was given to me so long ago. However, something was protecting the twins during that fight, as it was brutal at that." She felt Itachi's hands tighten around her. "What do you believe that was?" he asked. "Children, in our old world before starting school, had bursts of magic that was dubbed accidental, as it was magic responding to the wishes of the child. I remember one time when I had been chased by my cousin and his friends in one of their cruel games in school. I had wished to escape them. The next thing I knew, I had found on one of the school roofs. My magic had protected me then. If our magic is waking up again, Mia believes that somehow it formed some sort of protective shield around my womb to keep our daughters safe. Furthermore, she believes that my magic has safely accelerated their growth to give them the best chance to survive outside of my body. After all, I was only 7 months pregnant, and Tsunade told me that both our daughters looked like babies born between the 8 and 9 months of pregnancy. Tsunade, being the best medic nin in the elemental nations, would not have made such a big mistake," Itachi gently stated. "No, which leaves something in my body, which is most probably my magic, as I remember a little bit before losing consciousness against my battle with the masked Akatsuki." "Oh, what do you remember?" "My chakra was getting lower and lower, and even the defensive shield that it was producing was getting weaker and weaker until it disappeared completely and I fell to the ground. I could see my opponent starting his final attack against me when a shield appeared between us, and the figures of my birth parents, Padfoot and Mooney, appeared between us to lend me their strength. Now that I think about it, my mother told me that my magic was waking up and was going to be my secondary defense if my chakra was exhausted." "Jade, are you okay?" Itachi looked at her concern. Yes, she looked at him. So much had happened that I've forgotten this episode, and to tell you the truth, at the time it was surreal and I was so exhausted. "Then, what happened?" "The T&I department didn't see any weapons marks on Obito Uchiha body." Obito, Kakashi old teammate and a part of my father Genin team. Jade looked at Itachi. Yes, how, why, what led him to this? Did the fact that he managed to survive that mission twisted his views and led him to decide to attack my family, the village and go after the tailed beasts? There is no way of knowing that Jade, Itachi told her. How did you defeat him? Oh, yes, there is a way to know. Itachi and my family gave me enough of their leftover magic to cast the killing curse, the Avada Kedavra. That is how I managed to kill Obito. Was that everything that Mia told you? Itachi asked in effort to change the subject. Huh, oh non. She told me that as the three of us carry the magic gene and that I now know for a fact that I have access to my magic, there is the possibility that our daughters and their twins may develop some kind of magic in the future. Well, I don't know about Severus and Narcissa, however I suspect that our twins will, as they have been literally touched by your magic, Itachi said in her hair and noticed that Jade was laughing. What? Well, I don't know about that, as I will tell you that both Severus and Narcissa are in fact the reincarnations of their namesakes. How do you know this? I still carry the title of Mistress of Death even if I haven't communicated with the Shinigami in 15 years, Itachi, Jade told him while looking at him. So this is how you were able to see your parents? No, I haven't called them to me. In both cases that they interacted with me when I was close to death. When was the second case? Itachi asked. You mean the first, in that cave that you found me on that mission concerning Orochimaru's secret hideouts. While my body was transforming from a male to a female, I was sent in a place where I saw the 6 of them. 6. Yes, my parents, Sirius, Remus, Severus and Narcissa. They were the ones that gave me the strength to return to all of you. Then, I am grateful to them. Itachi looked her in the eyes and kissed her. I am too. She returned the kiss. So, what now? You literally sensed the souls of Severus and Narcissa in Mia and Rui twins. More like their auras. You see, the children will be their own personas, however possibly some of their mannerisms would be similar or the same as the ones of the Severus that we all knew and the Narcissa that Rui knew. What about our daughters? I literally cannot tell you as I was unconscious when they were born, so we will have to see. Still, you must know something about your birth parents. Oh, I know that my father, Sirius and Remus were pranksters on similar level to Naruto. At that Itachi shuddered. I know that my mother was very smart and dangerous. Think like a combination of Kushina and Mia. Again a shudder. I know that she wasn't impressed by my father until they were 16 and he finally started to put his act together, and I know that the 4 of them were wickedly smart, as my father and Sirius managed to achieve a feat of magic that was usually found in much older wizards that had studied under a mentor, and they managed to do it with self-study and by the age of 15. Oh, and that was the ability to become an anime guy. What were their forms? A stag and a black dog. Like the plush animals that Mia gave the twins. Yes. What about the wolf? You see, Remus wasn't an anime guy, but once a month he took the form of a wolf and he became a werewolf. In our magical society there were men and women that were bit by dark creatures known as werewolves. Humans that took the form in the night of the full moon of wolves. Itachi listened with interest. The wizarding world looked at those inflicted with the curse not like humans but gave them the status of a creatures. The laws of our government stripped them of almost all of their right. Remus was the only werewolf that I know that was given an education and managed to find a job for a while. With help from our teachers and later from my father and godfather Moon, he had started to act more like a real wolf than a werewolf. You see, werewolves were only dangerous to humans. When my father and godfather discovered Remus' secret, instead of abandoning him as Remus feared, they worked tirelessly for 3 years from age 12 to 15 to learn how to transform into animals, and when they were in their 5th year of schooling, Mooney was no longer alone, but had a pack. What about the tiger? Sirius had told me that if my mother had managed to become an anime guy like them, her form most likely would have been a tiger. I am glad of what, Itachi? That, in some form, your birth family is represented in our lives, even if it's only in our daughter's toys. If I manage to unlock an animal form, what do you think it will be? Jade asked him. Well, I think that your godfather was on the right track with your mother, and you are just as fierce as her, so some kind of big cat, possibly like Shade. A black panther, I like it. What about Mia and Rui? Well, taking into account Mia loves for knowledge, possibly an owl. Fitting. What about Rui? Rui, he will be difficult. Why? Well, with his regal appearance and aristocratic movements, I would have to say either some kind of domestic cat or a stallion. Why do you laugh? Well, I can actually see Rui as both, so good job. So what about me? What is my animal form? Itachi asked her. A black panther also. Oh, why? Well, you are very protective, loving, strong, but when the need arises you are silent and deadly. That sound good, but how common is the animal forms to be of the same species or family? He asked. Very rare, she answered him, and she kissed him. He returned the kiss and soon they were lost to each other. However, your daughters are hungry, Jade told Itachi between kisses. They have amazing timing, he grumbled good naturally as they separated, and soon both parents held each a baby. They had fast discovered that the twin that wasn't feeding at the moment was calmer when she was held by their father. Soon both little girls had fallen again to sleep and Jade and Itachi went to sleep also knowing that soon they would have to get up again to feed them. The Hokage office. Jade and Itachi stood in front of Minato in the Hokage office. Their daughters were babysat by Naruto and Sasuke, and to be sure that order reigned, Hinata has been put in charge, as however much Jade and Itachi loved Sasuke and Naruto, their daughters were still too little to be left with two males and their ideas of how to be responsible. Around Minato stood Kakashi, Kushina, Fugaki, Makoto, Tsunade as well as Ibiki and Anko. The 8 of them still haven't discovered why Obito had acted like that and were worries if it was really over or if there was some treat to the village. For Kakashi, Minato and Kushina it was even personal, as they have all knew and loved Obito and were devastated of what they have found out about him. Minato especially wanted to know if this has been some kind of twisted plan to enact revenge against him in retaliation for the fact that he had to separate from his team a long time ago during that fateful mission. Jade looked at Itachi for support, then at the others. When she saw the encouraging smile on Itachi's face, she closed her eyes and started for the first time in years to search for her magical core and for the small part that held the power of the Resurrection Stone. When she had crossed over to this new world, she already held the title of Master of Death, and the 3 artifacts had changed their forms to suit her needs in this new world. The wand has augmented her already considerable power a little bit, not enough for her to be undefeated but enough to hold her own for a little bit longer against stronger than her opponents. The powers of the invisibility cloak had permitted her to hold a near-perfect hinge which was very difficult to break, and the stone had permitted her to read the auras of the ninjas around her. When she was in Anbu, that had permitted her and her team to avoid dangerous confrontations a lot of time and to accomplish their missions with few casualties, which had made her team one of the most successful Anbu teams that the village had since its founding. Now she was trying to do something that she didn't know if it was possible or not to help her family to find their answers. Finally, she managed to find the magical core and smiled as she noticed how bright it was. Mesmerized, she touched it, and for the first time in years she felt her magic answering to her. She concentrated on how she remembered the feeling of the Resurrection Stone, and soon in her hand stood a black stone with multiple facets. She concentrated on Obito Uchiha and turned the stone 3 times. The ninjas in the Hokage office jumped when in front of Jade an ethereal figure started to appear. Minato and Itachi moved right away to protect her. When she opened her eyes and looked at the still-forming figure, she gently touched her adoptive father hand and her husband as they looked at her, and she indicated that she was fine. "What is this?" Ibiki asked. "I am giving you a way to ask your questions," Jade said to him. "You mean?" Kakashi started to ask as the ethereal form of Obito Uchiha appeared in the Hokage office. "How is this possible?" Anko asked. "It is an ability of my bloodline, that I though lost for 15 years," Jade answered her. "The stress of that final battle managed to unlock it again." "Obito Uchiha?" "Yes." The figure looked at her. "You know of my bloodline and my ability?" "Yes." The ethereal form looked at her. "Then I order you to answer any and all questions truthfully, regardless of who from this room is asking you. Do you understand?" At that the figure stayed silent. "Do you understand, Obito Uchiha?" Jade again said forcefully. "Yes." "What are you going to do?" "Answer all questions truthfully," the figure spat. "Minato, everyone, you better start now as I can hold it a limited time." She looked at the Hokage and he nodded. Right now in the office wasn't her father but the leader of the village. "Obito, what happened after the cave-in?" Kakashi asked. "I was on a brink of death, however I was found by chance by Madara Uchiha," the ethereal answered. "Madara Uchiha?" Anko asked. "What happened after that?" Minato asked. "He healed me and told me everything he knew. He even told me about the ultimate genjutsu that the Uchiha could cast and its requirements." "Ultimate genjutsu? Requirements?" Ibiki asked. "Using the power of the Sharingan on the moon, to put the whole elemental nations in a dream-like state. There will not be any wars, no conflict, only peace," Obito answered. "The quantity of chakra needed would have been immense," Fugaki murmured. "For this to work, all of the tailed beasts had to be used," Obito answered. "Was that the Akatsuki ultimate goal?" Itachi asked. "The Akatsuki didn't start like that, they were movement against the one known as the Salamander in aim," Hanzo Tsunade stated. "Yes," Obito answered. "One day the leaders fell into a trap which ended with the death of Yahiko." "Yahiko?" Jade asked. "The short-haired orange man turned into a puppet that you fought?" Obito looked at her. How was he reanimated?" Jade asked with dread, wondering if someone else had similar powers to her. "One of the members of the original Akatsuki, Nagato, had the Rinnegan." "The Rinnegan?" Makoto asked. "It is a myth," Fugaku stated. "Evidently not, father, as we have the evidence to back it up." Itachi looked at the room, having seen the corpse that had violet eyes with rings inside. "Nagato, Yahiko," Tsunade looked at Obito. "The woman body in our autopsy, was she named by any chance Conan?" "Yes, Tsunade." Minato asked. "After our fight with Hanzo the Salamander, me and Orochimaru separated for a time from Jiraiya. You see, he had found 3 orphans, 2 boys and a girl. Their names were Yahiko, Nagato and Konan, and taught them the ninja arts. With time, however, he had to leave, but he still held an ear open for news from them until he heard that the 3 of them have perished. Wrong. Only Yahiko died. Obito Shade answered. By that time I knew that I needed able hands to execute Madara Uchiha Munai plan, and found Konan and Nagato and used their grief from the loss of Yahiko to lead them toward the Tailed Beasts collection plan and the end result of the Munai plan. After all, they wanted peace, and this was a way to obtain it. A false peace, Jade stated. Everyone asleep but you, who would have the power to control the world. Yes, Obito stated. Humans need conflict to learn and grow from their mistakes. How else we will know what is right and what is wrong? Tsunade said. I would have been the one to decide for the. Obito looked at her. For the greater good? Jade asked the Shade. I have heard that before, from a man who thought that his way was the only way. If he wasn't as focused on his greater good, the war that followed and the deaths that it brought could have been avoided. Only those who knew of Jade past guessed that she was talking about Dumbledore. The others though that she was talking about the Mist Wars instigated by the Mizukage. Like your parents, Obito Shade stated. Among others, Itachi noticed that Jade has started to sweat from the effort to hold him there. Why did you go after Minato family? He asked. Did the bonds you had meant nothing to you? They meant something, started to say the Shade. Then why? Kakashi asked. Because of Rin. You promised me to protect her, Kakashi, but instead you killed her with your Chidori. Obito answered him. That was the hardest thing that I had to do, Obito. Kakashi said to the Shade. She was captured by Mist and the third tail sealed with a seal that would have freed the 3 tails if an attempt was made to break the seal. She told me to kill her as she didn't want the village to suffer. Lies, the Shade yelled at him. Until this event happened, did you believe in Madara plan? Ibiki asked. No, I did not, however I saw the true after Rin death. Why did you go after us? Kushina asked. Didn't you know to what your actions could lead? I needed the Kyuubi and I wanted a revenge against Konoha. What better way to do it, but to attack you, extract the fox, frame the Uchiha and provoke your death, Minato, and possibly leave your son orphaned. Obito answered her cruelly, to the horror of everyone. However, then something happened that I haven't planned for. My arrival and that of Mia and Rui. Jade had started to sweat even more. Jade, are you okay? Kushina asked. I can still hold the connection, so don't worry about me, she responded through gritted teeth. Yes, Obito answered the room. By that time Madara Uchiha had died and I knew that I will be in need of another with the Sharingan, and I had counted on my actions to sow distrust between the Uchiha and the village. However, this didn't happen. Fugaki said you had hoped for a clan uprising. Yes, however, this didn't happen to my great misfortune due to the relationships that you had kept with Minato. Is there the possibility that the Munai plan can be executed now? Ibiki asked. No, Obito answered him. Why? Minato asked. Due to Naruto actions, am I right? Itachi asked. Huh. The ones not in the know looked at Itachi. Basically, my brother got an understanding with the fox, and the fox bonded to him like Shade and Yuki to us and became his summon boss. Jade answered the room. Was all of this Madara plan? No, it wasn't. Obito looked at her with anger. What was his end goal? Jade asked, knowing that she was approaching her limits. Resurrection. Obito spat. How were you to accomplish that? At that the Shade stayed silent. You needed the Rinnegan powers, didn't you? Jade asked, knowing that she had less than a minute. Yes, Obito answered. Especially, its resurrection powers, didn't you? Jade started to tremble from the effort to hold Obito in the living world. Yes, Obito answered her. Did he made any contingency plans if you failed? At that the Shade stayed silent. Remember, you are obliged to tell me the truth. Is there another plan for Madara Uchiha to return to life? Her M's activated. No, there is none. Hidan and Kakuzi abilities could have been used, however you killed them very quick. Furthermore, Nagato technique to control corpses would have been too imperfect for a ninja of Madara caliber. Orochimaru resurrection technique wouldn't have been sufficient also. Yours, however, at that Obito looked at Jade, is near perfect. If I had known about it and managed to take you instead of trying to kill you and fused it with the others' techniques, I am sure that Madara would now be walking among the living. When Minato, Kakashi, Fugaku and Itachi heard that, they subconsciously closed on Jade. Stronger men than you had successfully taken me, and neither has managed to break me and use my powers and abilities. What makes you think that you would have succeeded? Jade asked with rage in her eyes. I would have used your child to make you compliant. At that Jade family hissed. Be very glad that I gave you a painless death. Your bastard. Jade eyes shone from her inner magic. Oh, and why is that? Obito ghost taunted her. Because my bloodline is limited to only my imagination and was only waking up when we fought. If you were alive now, I could have made with just a thought ignited your pain receptors to such a point that you could have lost your mind. Again, with just a thought I could have make the blood in your body boil. At that Tsunade as well as Anko and Ibiki looked unsettled. And if by any chance you have survived all the interrogations techniques that you would have the pleasure of experiencing and not broken, I would have healed you, given you to them for a second round, and if you still haven't broken I would heal you again and again until you were at death door. begin for death and broken and they have squeezed every ounce of information that you got. Then maybe if I was feeling merciful I would have killed you the way you died now. Be glad that my powers over you in death give me the ability to call you and nothing else. I don't care what you could have done to me, if the shield have not appeared between us, if you had succeeded to put even one finger on my child, you life as you knew it would have been over as nowhere you would have been safe from me. You were bluffing. Everyone had noticed that Obito form had become somehow palled as if he could feel emotions. I presume that you have met my biological parents? Jade asked Obito and the shade fearfully nodded. He remembered well his encounter with Lily Potter. My biological mother managed to destroy a man many times more powerful than her with a lot more years of knowledge in order to protect me. You men may be stronger than us women, however never underestimate a mother love to go through hell and back in order to protect her children. At that Kushina and Makoto nodded. Jade looked at Minato and silently asked if he had any more questions. However he didn't. I release you Obito Uchiha from the world of the living. Go and hope for a pleasant afterlife as your actions have hurt many and they still may have grudges against you. Everyone watched how Obito's ethereal form faded away, and when it did Jade concentration and strength left her. She had overused her magic and trembled from exhaustion. Itachi gently hugged her and soon he felt his shirt getting damp and everyone witnessed her quiet sobs. Jade, are you all right? Tsunade asked her. I was so scared, Tsunade, the moment that he said that he would have used the twins. For a moment I could only see him approaching me, but this time nothing protecting me. During the battle I wasn't scared for myself, but for the twins. Even if I was captured by him, if needed be I would have used my very life force to send them to Itachi, even if that meant that I would have died. She sensed Itachi's arms tightened around her. Oh, Jade, I would have done everything in my power to come to you in time. Fugaku tried to calm her. Jade, could you really have done everything that you told Obito? Shade Anko asked. Back then no, I would not have been able, even now no, as this almost drained me, and to do these things it takes a lot more power and a real desire to hurt somebody, to see him in pain. I have seen the consequences of this bloodline used like this and the results are frightening. I don't know if I even be able to use my bloodline like this even if my children are threatened. As for my bloodline to produce such effects I would have to experience blinding hate and a desire to not only hurt but to make suffer my enemy. Like with Obito, Kakashi asked. What good would have that done? If he had survived and I have had the capacity and capability to use my powers and use any of the two first methods, he may have lost his mind, thus making us unable to gather any info from him. At most I would have healed him as many times as needed for Anko and Ibiki to break him. After that his method of death would have been in the Hokage hands, not mine. What about the method that you used, can you repeat it? Ibiki asked. Eventually, yes, however what good would that have done? The dead don't belong in the world of the living and this is the one and only time I will use it, unless the safety of the village is at risk. Why? It would help some ninjas give closure. Make our interrogations easier, Kakashi asked. Did it? What? Asked Kakashi. Did it really give you closure? And to all of you that have known Obito? Itachi asked. At first you had made your peace with Obito and your other teammate Death Kakashi, Minato, Kushina. When he was an unknown element under a mask, wasn't it easy to hate him for what he had done? Yes, Minato answered. Not knowing why he had done the things that he had done when he was unmasked made it confusing, but still clenching you to the belief that he wasn't responsible for his actions. Yes, Kushina answered even more quietly. What about now, that you know that he was alive all this time and instead of returning to Konoha he chose to do by his own free will all these things, does it make you feel better? No, the three that have knew Obito answered the room quietly. So, Kakashi, was this kind of closure worth it? No, the Silver Jonin said. What about if everyone learned that Jade can potentially call their loved ones, their teammates to them? Is it fair to them, to Jade? No, Tsunade murmured. We have an excellent T&I department that for now, have been up to par in the village protection thanks to Ibiki, Anko and Inoichi work, that haven't once missed a serious threat for the village with the information that the Anbu had provided them and the methods they have used. Itachi. Jade has closing her eyes and starting to fall asleep, the usage of her magic after so long having exhausted her. Give her to me, Itachi. Minato said. Why? She needs to rest. Exactly, if you bring her home now, the twins will inadvertently wake her up and prevent her to sleep. They'll flash her to our house and leave her to sleep in her old room. Like that she will get some hours of uninterrupted sleep. This is a good idea, thank you Minato, Itachi said and gently transferred his sleeping wife in Minato's hands and everyone watched how he flashed away with her. Minato looked at the resembled Jonin in his office. He and the Jonin were looking at a list of possible successors to the Hokage had as Minato wanted to prepare his replacement while he was still in office. There were few names but not one stood out until. What about Jade? Inoichi asked. Jade? Minato asked. Well, she already knows the job works. She is well liked by the Jonin and the ninjas as well as the clan heads. Furthermore, she is strong and inventive, finished Inoichi. I don't know if she will be happy with the offer, Minato murmured. There is no way to know unless you ask her. Kakashi put his 2 cents. Okay, I will ask her. 2 nights later, Jade was invited to Minato house with Itachi and the twins for dinner. When she arrived at her old home, Kushina right away took her grandchildren to watch and play with them. Since moving away, the red-haired Kunoichi didn't have much chance to see the twins every day as the kids were rotating between their house and that of their grandparents. Furthermore, Itachi knew that Jade and Mia were doing a special project and that the work was almost complete. Just needed a few final tweaks until it was ready to be shown to Minato. As far as Itachi knew, the project was something that used the basis of something that her biological father has made with his friends. Now Minato has taken Jade aside to talk with her about something. Everything was quiet until... "You want me to train for what?" Jade's voice was heard ringing in the house. The Jonins and the ninjas consul think it is a good idea. Minato tried to defuse the situation as Itachi and Kushina looked at each other. What the hell was going on? Dad, you know me, you know the trouble I am attracting. I don't think that I am the best person for that particular job, Jade started. Everyone believes that you'll do a great job, furthermore I will be helping you. Oh yeah, what about the times you aren't in the village? One, you still will help, and two, it won't be that often. Minato tried to placate it. Just give me some time, she said as she left the office and bumped into Itachi. What is happening? Not now. Sorry Kushina, I need to get out, Jade told the two of them and left the house. What was all that about? Kushina asked Minato as she saw him. The Jonin and the ninja consul proposed to me to start train a replacement and they all thought that Jade will be a good candidate. Let me guess, you told her this happy news? Itachi looked sarcastically at him. Yes, Minato said. Oh, Minato, you know Jade, she is not too keen of news of such nature. Kushina looked at her husband. With Jade, Rui and Mia. Rui and Mia looked at Jade with hidden amusement. Their friend has come over suddenly and now she was circling their living room and ranting. Can you believe what Minato and the ninja consul had thought about? I think that having Minato train a successor is a great idea, however who gave him the idea that I am a good candidate for the position? When you think about it, you had already led people, Hermione said, calling her friend by her old name. Yes, and look how good that turned out to be as everyone beside us died, she responded bitterly. You don't see it, but there is a difference. What, Draco, what is the difference? Well, almost everyone there expected you alone to defeat Voldemort and very few adults actually did something, Hermione started saying. This left us, the students, to fight and most of them didn't have the full education. Draco continued. You were powerful, yes, but mostly lucky as Voldemort had at least 50 years of magical knowledge over you. Furthermore, you yourself weren't properly trained and were expected to sacrifice yourself, Hermione said, which you stupidly did. And you returned to life because of a combination of factors that ended up weakening Riddle. Draco concluded. If you accept the position as Minato's successor, this time you won't be alone as you'll be properly trained. Also, when Minato isn't at the village, you still have Inoichi and Shikaku to help you in the different tasks, as Shikaku is the Jonin commander and Inoichi heads the intelligence division. Furthermore, you are well loved by the clans as Fugaku and Hiashi managed to put aside their considerable rivalry in order to find you. Still, Harry, don't worry, you have us, Itachi, Sasuke, Naruto, Hinata, Minato, Kushina and Kakashi. You will not be alone and you will be just fine. Do you really believe that I can do it? At that, Draco and Hermione looked at each and said in one voice. Yes. With Minato. Minato looked helplessly at Kushina and Itachi. After Jade has left, suddenly he had found himself under fire from both his wife and his son-in-law. Now both of them were looking at him with anger in their eyes, hoping that Jade was okay. The dinner stood between them forgotten, and the only ones that had eaten were the twins. Suddenly, at what seemed to Minato like hours, Jade returned and she appeared a lot calmer than before. She stormed out. Jade, he started, if I accept to do this, you'll be here to provide me with help, she asked him while looking at him. Jade, what are you asking? Minato asked as he had trouble understanding. If I accept to eventually be your replacement, you'll be with me every step of the way, she asked again. Yes, of course, Minato said right away. You will be trained. And the clan heads will eventually accept me. Yes, they already accept you. In fact, it was one of them that proposed the idea, Minato quickly said without giving any names, as he knew that if he gave Shikaku name, the Nara would find himself in lots of troublesome situations. What are going to be my duties? Well, you'll start by reading past reports, familiarizing yourself with past missions, then after that you start to read and organize the potential requests and problems of the civilian side of the village, and when you have experience you'll move to handing over D-rank missions. What? He asked as he saw that everyone was looking at him. You want to do this to escape the amount of paperwork, don't you? Asked Itachi. Also, you hate dealing with civilians, so that will potentially stop them complaining to you, Kushina continued. And I still think that D-rank missions are a glorified word for chores that people didn't want to do, Jade snarked. Furthermore, they are in the village, so there is no danger. Why not give this fine step of our future ninjas to the graduating classes? Like that the teachers will organize their students in 3-man team and see which students work best together and which don't, and then with every assignment they switch it around. Like that the future genin will have some experience, it will free our mission log and it will save everybody in the office the pointless complaining about not getting an exiting mission. For example, that infernal cat that escape each week at least 3 times will be a good exercise of tracking. Lots of genin will be grateful for the reprieve from the demon cat. Furthermore, only academy students that are 10 and up will be able to participate in these, let's call them exercises, as they should be more disciplined than younger ones. This idea has merit. Why don't you propose it at the next council? Minato looked at her. Minato, I don't believe that it will be well received if it comes from me, Jade slowly answered him. You never know, I remember how we loathed the D-rank missions, Itachi told her. Also, the students will learn to work as a team faster and the jonin will be free to teach them techniques faster and not lose too much time of teaching the base of teamwork, but will be able to build on it. Kushina looked at her daughter. So will you start the training to be my successor? Minato asked, and Jade looked at him. The months started to pass by fast as Jade immersed herself in her training as Minato's successor. There were already new changes that were slowly starting to emerge as the new academy year had began. When Jade had proposed her idea to start using the D-rank chores. Missions in the academy as training exercise promoting teamwork and to see which students worked best together, she was at first been met with skepticism. However, the jonin commander and the clan heads had liked the idea, and had proposed a trial version using their 2 graduating classes this year. One of them was at the regular program and the other twice a month had show UD rank missions. Also, the test class was under order not to tell the other classes what they were doing twice a month. Jade had reasoned that this was a perfect, benign and safe way to see which genin could be trusted with sensible information in the future. A note was then placed in every academy student file about how well or long they have kept the secret of their special exercises. One thing that has resulted in that was that Jade has become the favorite person of this year graduated genin crop, as they didn't need to chase anymore after Tor the demon cat, and also among the jonin as they had more time to train their students in different survival techniques. Thus, however, opened more work for Jade, as the missions that were previously classified as D ranks were now classified as E rank, with only the more labor-intensive being left out as missions that the freshly graduated genin took out to gain more practical experience. The difference came in the C rank missions, as Jade had now the task to go through each and every request and classified them as low or high-ranking C rank. This took time, as she also looked at the political situation in the region and also passed Anbu or jonin reports, as she didn't want another repeat of the Zabuza incident. Furthermore, she had dedicated 1/2 day a week to listen to the civilians and their requests and to decide if they are legitimate and beneficial to the village or not. This left Minato to deal with the higher-ranking missions and above, and with less paperwork, and he loved it. Truly, why has it not been done this before? Oh wait, if it has, he most likely would have been stuck earlier with the most of the paperwork, as it was now Jade. Still, somehow she returned the sentiment as somehow, and he didn't remember signing it, for he was stuck once a week try. Enduring Guy flames of youth, and he had to wear Guy's signature green spandex and witness the unholy sunset between Guy and Lee. Seriously, how Jade has managed to pass that to him. And the worst of it was that she had made copies of that infernal document that now had a place of honor in the jonin lounge, the Anbu lounge, his house, Guy house, and each and every ninjas that had free time gathered to watch the Hokage training with Guy clothed in green spandex enduring the infamous flames of youth of Konoha 2 green beasts. And don't get him start on the pictures, somehow, and he didn't know how, as there were none present at any time. One day Kushina, Hiyashi, Sume, Shikaku, Choza, Inoichi, Ibiki and Anko had shown up wanting autographs of all things. Yes, Jade was retaliated with finesse, even beyond Kushina and Naruto pranking level, so Minato had decided to blame her biological parents for that, as there was no way he could escape this tour. He meant training until his darling daughter decided he had enough. To borrow Shikaku's favorite saying, women were troublesome. Jade was using one of her small days off to see her teammates in Team 7. Naruto and Sasuke had especially loved her prank. Naruto had loved her boldness and Sasuke her execution, as essentially Minato had signed on his own free will for that training. They had especially loved the explanation given, as Minato, being the Hokage and the strongest ninja in the village, needed to keep his skills sharp, and being a glorified paper pusher, Jade's words were diminishing his considerable skills, so a taijutsu exercise with Guy and Lee was in order to wake up his skills. When Jade had decided that he had built an endurance enough, she planned to slip him a document to sign with training with Anko, as dodging was very important and his special kunai may not be always available, and as she had explained, she was doing it for the good of the village. Mia then had pointed out that she was in a similar situation, however Jade had countered that she was training intensely with Anko and few of the Anbu when they had time, as well as any free Uchiha and Hyuga. One day Kushina had come to ask her to ease up with the pranking on Minato, but she had loved her explanation so much that she had let him continue. Minato was worried, and with a good reason. Few days ago, when he had shown up for his weekly tour training with Guy, the Jonin had told him that their time was over. Unfortunately, however, he would continue to cheer him on in this training. Minato elation was short-lived as Guy had said training. What kind of training was he doing and what had Jade concocted next is when he had asked Kushina if she knew his darling wife had smelled one of her shark smiles and told him not to worry. This of course had made him worried. Then the day came when Anko of all things barged in his office, told him to dress in uniform, fishnets and leather and meet him in the Forest of Death for continuation of his tour. Training. The worst of all is he found out that photos of his EHUM training uniform had circulated among his female ninjas and he had overheard more than one fantasizing about him in many risque positions. Kushina was the worst, but at least he was happy to oblige and he awaited the end of his stressful days when they could let themselves go in the bedroom. Then the day finally came when Anko stoked the tour. Training and Minato was looking apprehensive at what was next. Then to his surprise the duo from Hell walked in, or as they were known, Sasuke and Naruto. These two were as good as Itachi and Jade and were on the fast track to becoming Anbu commanders. He didn't had time to ask what was happening when both of them started to attack him. He tried to escape them, however he was unable and soon the three of them were in training ground 7 under the watchful eyes of every ninja that could fit in the training ground still in the village. The battle continued for hours until finally, the teenagers' chakra output stopped and they made the sign for defeat to Minato. The three of them stopped when they heard applauding and saw Jade. Minato then rounded on her. "Jade, what the hell was that?" "Training, my dear father," she said nonplussed. "Training, yes, after all you were the Hokage and staying put in your office had diminished your battle prowess. For the good of the village I as the future Hokage had to do something as I don't want all the responsibilities that come with the hat right now. So Guy, Anko and Naruto and Sasuke. Guy for endurance and taijutsu, Anko for ninjutsu and evasion as her snake bites are a good motivator and Naruto and Sasuke to test you if you have trained to satisfactory level decided by the Jonin commander." "And well?" Minato asked scared. "You are in the clear," Minato Shukaku said. "What about you, Jade?" Minato snarked. "Do you need such a training?" "No," Anko answered, "as she is training each week with me, various Anbu, Uchiha and Hyuga, so she is covered." "I have to ask, were the photos necessary?" Minato whined to the amusement of all. "Well no, however they were a nice payback for all the crap that I had to endure with the civilian consul." Jade smirked. "And who am I to deprive the female ninja population with photos of you in a fishnet and leather? I have on good authority that even Makoto was interested in threesome with you and Kushina." "What?" Minato and Fugaku screamed and Makoto said to her husband. "What, even you were in fact contemplating Minato figure?" she said unashamedly. "What?" Minato looked at Fugaku with horror and saw the face of his friend to be in fact deep red and knew that Makoto wasn't joking. Thanks for watching.